One night, a boy named Shiki was standing with his grandfather and his robot friend Michael, watching a comet crossing the sky. Shiki thought it was a star, but his grandfather told him that it might be a dragon and they would not be able to confirm its identity unless they went to it themselves. Shiki felt that it was almost impossible to approach a comet because of the distance between it and the Earth, so his grandfather told him that he would not recognize many things if he stayed here, then asked him to leave this place one day and go to different countries and kingdoms to meet many people and make friends because they are the most important thing in life and they will help him no matter what. Shiki looked at the sky and asked his grandfather what was behind it, and he told him that there is space, and in space there is everything like dragons, humans, and different animals. And the grandfather said that somewhere in the vast space there is a mother who is a person who can fulfill any wish she wants, so Shiki wished to gain many friends. Years later, a girl named Rebecca and her cat Happy arrived in the kingdom of Granville, which looks like a Disney theme park. Rebecca was excited that they had succeeded in reaching that kingdom and that it would give her many sightings. Then they panicked when one of the robots saw them and started to crowd around them to celebrate the arrival of the first visitor to the kingdom in 100 years, and it turned out that all its inhabitants were robots. Everyone started to flock to her and ask her to wish for anything and they would make it happen. She told him that she wants to get 1 million subscribers to her channel. We want that too, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and then asked him to repeat the celebration again so she could film it. But the robot didn't understand anything she was saying. She asked him about the best missions in the kingdom, and he told her that she could defeat a monster and get a prize. She felt that this mission would be suitable for a video for her channel, but when they went to face the monster, they found that it was a very large cat robot. Then they panic when the giant cat falls to the ground and a human boy with aggressive features appears in front of them. Rebecca is devastated and Shiki approaches her to make sure she's actually human. She wonders why there's another human in the kingdom and he doesn't look like a guest. He told her that he was the only human living in this kingdom, and when he noticed that she had a cat with her, he looked at it and felt like he wanted to eat it. Then he sat thinking about why they were here and started approaching them again.
Did you pray today?
Rebecca thought he was going to hit her, but she found him reaching out to her and asking her to be his friend, so she punched him and refused it categorically. He caught up with her and told her that he had never seen a human in his life and that his grandfather had told him before he died to make lots of friends. Rebecca and Happy kept running away from him until they left the forest. Rebecca returned to the city and asked one of the robots if there was a human living among them. When the robot said his name, he appeared behind her and started telling Rebecca the names of the robots and their jobs in the kingdom, and introduced her to Michael and told her that they were all friends. Rebecca felt he wasn't a bad guy, and when Shiki recognized their names, he offered them again to become his friends, but they asked for some time to think about it, and then the robots told them that they were going to throw a huge party to celebrate their first visitor in a century. Rebecca was filming every moment with her special camera. Meanwhile, a mysterious robot was spying on them and then went to tell his master Castellan what was going on. Castellan decided it was time to start implementing his plan. Rebecca wondered what Shiki was doing in the forest alone, and he told her that he was doing some repairs to the cat robot as it had been acting strangely lately. Then he asked her where they came from, and she told him that their city is called Blue Garden. Shiki was curious to go to her someday, so she asked if he had never been outside the kingdom before, and he told her that if he did, there would be no one to fix the robots. Then he suddenly fell asleep, and Rebecca was surprised that he broke the dining table as soon as he put his head on it. Rebecca felt the urge to cut his hair and started to wonder what a human was doing in this kingdom alone. Michael told her that he was a special child and told her that 10 years ago, the demon king came in the form of a machine to the kingdom with a human child. They don't know how the king found him, but he loved him like his own grandson, and after his death, they all became attached to him and couldn't let go of him. In the evening, Rebecca is still editing the videos she filmed, while Shiki is surprised that his hair is short when he wakes up, and instead of looking like Madara, he looks like Seth from the Radiant anime. Then he started screaming and panicking outside while calling his friends to tell them that his hair was gone. Then he heard sounds of distress nearby, and when he went towards it, he found Rebecca and Happy tied up in front of the public in the street. Rebecca told him that she found herself here when she woke up and asked him to untie her, but he was surprised by the appearance of Mr. Castellan and realized that he was the one who tied them here, so he told him that they were his friends from another kingdom. Castellan told him that they had been waiting for this moment for a century for someone to come up with a ship that could go outside, and he decided to get rid of them as soon as they got the ship and went to the outside world. Rebecca was surprised by his malicious intentions and told him that she was just a guest in this kingdom. He told her that machines do not live to serve humans and that the existence of machines is just as important as their own, and all the robots supported his idea and chanted that humans are their enemies. Shiki marveled that everyone was suddenly acting strangely, even his friend Michael. Rebecca then realized that they had been infected with a virus. Castellan told her that the virus had made them self-aware that they were not human tools. else. Shiki tried to convince them that he is not their enemy and thought about fixing them, but Castellan told him that he would not be able to, and that he never had the ability to fix any robot, as this world is a fantasy world in which everything has a specific role, and Shiki was the repairman, but in fact they are self-repairing by the kingdom system. Castellan then took off his robe and revealed his hostile intentions towards humans, revealing that he was a fighting robot. He then told them that once upon a time, this kingdom was full of machines and humans, but humans abandoned them and stopped coming to the kingdom. Then he added that it was time for the robots to break free and go out to the outside world after obtaining the means to enable them to do so and declare war on humans. And Shiki told him that he had lived in this kingdom all his life and never left them. But he was surprised by their intention to kill him, and the reason they allowed him to live among them was that he came with the Demon King before his death, in addition to not having a ship, while he thought everyone was his friends, and then they all rushed towards him to attack him. Shiki kept getting beaten by them as he saw Michael standing in front of him doing nothing, and remembered all the times he had spent with them, and it turned out to be full of falsehood, while Rebecca screamed at them to stop beating him, but to no avail. Then, to everyone's surprise, a strange power emanated from Shiki's hand, and he was able to take down all the robots around him with one blow after he realized that he had been deceived for 10 years and decided to face Castellan and follow him to protect Rebecca, and remembered his grandfather's advice to him that if a friend cries for him, he should keep him for the rest of his life. Happy manages to free himself and untie Rebecca, while Shiki dodges all of Castellan's attacks and is surprised to find that Shiki possesses a power that dates back to ancient times. Castellan kept attacking Shiki until he got close enough and landed a super punch that created an atomic bomb crater in the ground that almost caused Rebecca and Happy to fall into it, but he caught them just in time. The robots kept chanting against them, expressing their desire to eliminate them and rule the world. Shiki wondered where her ship was, and they headed to it to escape the kingdom before Castellan came back. Rebecca is surprised that he can fly and that he wants them to escape while he takes care of the robots, so she decides to take him with her since they are now friends, and they escape together on the ship. Shiki then wondered if they were going to other kingdoms, and Rebecca told him that they weren't exactly kingdoms. Shiki then looked around and realized that they were in the vastness of space. She told him that her ship had the ability to travel through space, and Shiki realized that the blue garden she came from was the name of a planet, not a country. Then Shiki noticed a comet passing by them, but when they got close enough, it turned out to be a huge golden dragon, and Shiki remained fascinated by everything he saw around him as if he was in a dream, while on the other side, Castellan felt relieved that his plan to send Shiki to space succeeded, as he planned to agree with his grandfather and all the robots to pretend to betray him to force him out of the kingdom so that he would not be alone after their lives ended. Then they began to fall one by one, and all robot functions stopped on the planet Granbell. Afterward, Shiki checks out all the technology on the ship and is surprised when Rebecca and Happy play one of their videos and tell him that they have a channel on a video shooting and posting website and earn money based on the number of views. When she showed him the video she made with the robots, he remembered what had happened and their betrayal and vowed to make hundreds of friends in this vast world. She told him that he would have to register as an adventurer when they reached Blue Garden to be able to travel between planets, and offered him to work as a bodyguard for her and Happy temporarily, as they are famous personalities and he will be useful to them with his super strength, and they agreed to work together. After arriving on the blue planet, Shiki was impressed by their huge buildings. Then they went to the Adventurers Guild and found many humans inside, which impressed him as he had spent his whole life with robots and felt the desire to make friends with all of them. Rebecca warned him that there are evil humans and not all of them are peaceful, but he ignored that and started approaching strangers and offering them friendship. So she pulled him back by force and told him that no one here wants to be his friend. Rebecca told him that she was his mother, and he remembered what his grandfather, the Demon King, had told him about her ability to grant wishes. So he went towards her and asked her to make many friends. Then he remembered the robots and cried as he asked her to become their friend again. Rebecca approached him and told him that it was just a hologram, and that the mother is actually much larger, and that she lives somewhere in space and is a great mystery to everyone because they don't know why she exists or what she seeks, but everyone worships her as the goddess of the universe and is able to grant wishes. After scrutinizing the picture of the mother, Shiki felt that he had met her before, and all the people present burst out laughing at his claim that he had met her before, and they kept making fun of him, although he silenced them and then offered to be his friend, which made them burst out laughing again, and Rebecca got angry and dragged him out of the guild. She then scolds him for claiming to have met the mother even though he had never set foot outside of Granbell. He says he felt she looked familiar and wondered why everyone was making fun of him inside, so she tells him that there are good guys and bad guys. Then they were surprised when one of the bad guys put Happy in a glass bottle and threw a smoke bomb at them before disappearing out of sight with the cat. Shiki was furious and rushed after the kidnapper without thinking, while Rebecca was in shock. She remembers the first time she met Happy as a child, and he was just a homeless and hungry cat. While on the other side, Shiki uses his strength to run up the walls of the buildings and reach the height of the kidnapper's bike, then manages to catch him and force him to fall. When When the kidnapper finds people crowding around him, he pulls out his gun to stop them from approaching him. Then his older brother appears in front of them, and Shiki finds that he is very large compared to any normal human being who may be as tall as Jack Hanma, and is amazed when he sees that his brother managed to steal a cat from another planet. Rebecca then arrived at the place where the kidnapper fell and asked them to return Happy to her, but the gang members kept making fun of her after they recognized her identity and told her that she was wasting his value by raising him as a pet when he could bring her great wealth being from the planet Exceed. She told them that he was her friend and remembered her promise to Happy that they would stay together forever. Then Shiki used his power that breaks the laws of physics and rushed towards the gang members to take them down one by one, and the big guy realized that he has the power of Aether Gear from the Dark Ages and decided to get rid of him himself to increase his status. Then he started shooting at him hysterically, causing the kidnapper to stumble and Happy to fall out of his hands, and then the glass of the canister broke and Happy broke free to run towards Rebecca. Then Shiki was stunned by turning into a pair of automatic pistols, and it was Rebecca's turn to return the attack, and she exchanged fire with the gang and managed to crush them. Enraged, the big man boosts the power of his cannon and continues to fire at her, but Shiki rushes towards her to save her from the bullets, and when they are in a good shooting position, she manages to hit him directly until he falls helplessly to the ground. After defeating the villains and saving Happy, Shiki is amazed at Rebecca's ability and asks her if she really needs a bodyguard and marvels at the fact that Happy is a robot, as he seems more realistic than the ones in Granville. Rebecca told him that he was in an accident in the past, and in order to save him, they had to replace his body with a robot body. He remembered when she told the robots in Granville that friends are friends, whether human or robot, and he understood her meaning. Meanwhile, the space pirate Elsie Crimson received the news that Shiki had left Granville, and when she learned his location, she decided to head her ship towards the blue planet. After that, they returned to the guild, and Shiki panicked when he noticed a small spider near him, and Rebecca told him that he had to be brave to become an adventurer, and he told her that he is afraid of insects of all kinds, and that it is his weakness. They were then greeted by a guild receptionist named Clarice Layer, who turned out to be Rebecca's friend. Shiki kept looking at her to make sure she was human, and when she noticed his presence, Happy told her that they had met him on their trip to Granville. Clarice is happy that Rebecca has a new friend, so she asks her to register him as an adventurer. On their way to the registration room, they meet a weird girl named Lobelia, who makes fun of Rebecca. As soon as she appears, she catches everyone's attention because they think she's hot, and they start flocking to her, and it turns out she's as famous online as Rebecca is. Then she approached Rebecca and made fun of her latest downloaded videos and advised her to think about retirement. Rebecca was furious but did not do anything until Lobelia left. Shiki went over to her and grabbed her before she left, but she warned him that it would cost him a lot of money if he wanted to shake her hand. But she soon found herself turned upside down by his strength and told her that he felt bad for making his friend cry and kept swinging her around until Rebecca pulled him away and they left the syndicate. Shiki was surprised to find that the waiters were small snowmen who cooked and served the food to the customers. He then said that the syndicate seemed much different from what he expected, as he thought it was a place with a lot of friends. She told him that everyone comes to the guild just to look for work and that they will have to make their own adventure. She then checked her phone and pulled out his adventurer's card, and Shiki was excited to have a special card. Then he noticed that he's at the lowest level of adventurers, and Rebecca told him that she's at the same level and that's why they're always working. Then they noticed people at the next table watching Lobelia's video, and she got a little irritated and said that she admits that her videos are good and she has an incredible number of subscribers. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that we can overtake Lobelia. Shiki came up with a crazy idea that would put her ahead of Lobelia. They could go on a trip to find the mother and meet her, where they would be the first people in human history to meet her and shut everyone up, and Rebecca felt it was an idea worth considering. But Happy told her that they would need a stronger and better ship than their current ship to go beyond space, so Shiki decided to start preparing for their trip, searching for the right ship and getting allies to help them during the trip. Rebecca thought of using the doctor who fixed Happy called Weiss. In the meantime, Elsie arrived at the guild headquarters with her crew, and everyone was scared when they saw them. Then she went to Clarice to ask her where he was, but she couldn't speak out of fear, so one of the adventurers told her that he was going with Rebecca to the planet Norma. On the other side, Shiki and Rebecca started their journey towards the planet, and he asked her to let him pilot the ship. She asked him if he had done this before, but he said it would be the first time in his life, and she thought it sounded like a good idea for a new video on her channel. Rebecca let him take the helm, and as they approached the planet, she started to explain how to land the ship properly, but he accidentally pressed all the controls at the same time and caused the ship to go down at full speed. He tried to avoid the impact and kept flying around the planet, but they ended up crashing into the dead planet. Rebecca kept scolding him for wrecking her ship, so Shiki used his strength to lift the entire ship and reposition it. Afterward, They notice that the weather on the planet is unstable, and Shiki panics when he finds a bunch of wooden planks falling like rain on them. She tells him that this planet is full of earth ether, and when it falls, it becomes part of the planet's ground. Shiki wondered what the ether was, and Happy told him that it was the source of all the power in humans, air, and machines, and that it could be considered magic. And Rebecca explained to him the process of pushing magic into his body and how to use it. Then they headed towards an old portal, which turned out to be the entrance to an underground city that the planet's inhabitants had built to live in, and Shiki was amazed that it was so peaceful and trouble-free. When they go to Dr. Whis' place, they don't find him, so they keep looking around until a mysterious man appears behind them, pointing a gun at them and asking them why they are breaking into his house. They tell him that they are looking for Dr. Whis, and Shiki is shocked when he tells them that his name is Weiss and that he and Rebecca don't know each other. Dr. Whis offers them to leave his house now in exchange for leaving them alive. Shiki puts on his glasses and finds that he can see objects and people on other floors and realizes that someone is standing upstairs. Weiss took advantage of the opportunity to escape on his motorcycle. When Shiki caught up with the criminal, he asked them to tell Weiss that the Great Cyber would never forgive him for his betrayal. After they left the place, Shiki was surprised that this person was not Dr. Whis despite having the same name, so she showed a photo of her with the real Dr. Whis, and Shiki felt that he looked very similar to the person they met. Happy deduces that he may have invented an anti-aging drug and accidentally wiped his memory, while Rebecca is surprised when the internet connection suddenly goes down and they see on the news that a new cult has set out on a space exploration path. Shiki realizes it's their cult and thinks it's still an obscure cult, but Rebecca says in shock that their planet's cult has been around for 50 years, and when she relates it to Whis, she realizes they've gone back in time 50 years, and this is Dr. Whis as a child. Happy tried to calm Rebecca down to think of a way to get back to their time, but soon a huge robot approached them, which turned out to be the Great Cyber, who came after finding them with his followers, and the people started running in panic when they saw them. Then he told them that they were as guilty as their friend Whis, as he stole his money and ran away. When he asked them where he was, they tried to convince him that they didn't know anything about him. Then Rebecca whispered to her companions to run away because they can't interfere in anything related to the past so as not to create a time paradox. Shiki used his power to fly against gravity, dodging Cyber's missiles and following him until his robot appeared in front of him, and Cyber was shocked that he was able to block his blow and reflect it back at him. Then they ran to hide in a safe place, and Cyber emerged from his broken robot, confident that he will meet Shiki again someday. After that, they went to a bar, and Shiki kept his mouth shut at everything he saw, as the bar was full of aliens. Rebecca told him that this bar was Weiss's hideout in the past, and when she turned around, he was standing next to her. Weiss wondered how they found him. They tried to convince him that they came from the future by accident, and that he had helped Rebecca heal Happy when he was in an accident, and when he saw his picture with them in the future, he was shocked at how old he looked. Weiss found that he had no choice but to trust them after confirming that they were not affiliated with Cyber, so they asked him to help them return to their time. Then Shiki noticed the bag in his possession, and when they asked him about his relationship with Cyber, he asked them not to interfere in his affairs as they came from the future. But he soon found that his bag disappeared in a blink of an eye. Then he noticed Shiki standing on the ceiling of the bar carrying the bag in his hands, but he fell from the top after his strength suddenly faded. Then the bag opened automatically and a small robot in the form of a girl appeared from it. Then the robot began to search for its master. Shiki was surprised that this planet also contains robots, and she told him that her name is Ian Pino, and Weiss was shocked that what was in the bag was not money. Then the electricity inside the bar was cut off, and Pino told them that it was the effect of her electromagnetic program. Shiki realizes that this is why his power faded when he picked up the bag, and they notice that Happy stopped working as a robot, but soon everything started working again. Shiki admires Pino's features and offers to become friends with her, and is excited when she agrees to be friends with him. Weiss examined Pino to see if she was worth a lot of money, but she told him she was the property of her master who made her. When Weiss mentioned Cyber's name, Pino regained her memory, got scared for disobeying her master's orders, and ran out of the bar. Weiss thought that maybe Cyber was trying to use the MP robotics program to make money and decided to take the opportunity to keep Pino with him until he could sell her to the highest bidder. Rebecca was frustrated as she remembered his principles against theft and corruption crumbling before her eyes, and that Weiss was just a greedy scumbag. Rebecca asked the bartender if she knew anything about Weiss, and she replied that he was in his gang, but had recently left it. As they left the bar, they thought about using the ship to return to the blue planet, and maybe they would succeed in returning to their original time. Shiki pulls out a cube from his pocket that he got from Pino's bag, and when Rebecca tries to take it from him so they don't get involved in anything, a cube-shaped display screen appears and Cyber appears inside it, and they realize that it is a video that was filmed a week ago. They find Cyber treating Pino cruelly and trying to force her to do things she is not programmed to do. He starts torturing her and amputating her limbs, and orders her to erase all memories of her former master. Shiki is furious at Seber's sadism and decides to help her and take her to where her former master is, which will force him to intervene in the past and change the future. Rebecca searches the suitcase for any information about Pino and finds out that she went back in time like them and is basically a robot from the future that Cyber used for his crimes. Meanwhile, Pino goes to Cyber while Weiss watches from afar, and Cyber decides to start taking over the city. On the other side, Shiki and Rebecca were on their way to Cyber's hideout to rescue Pino, while Cyber tried to cut off her other foot because she ran away from him. She tried to convince him that the bag was stolen from him while she was inside, but to no avail. Weiss appears and catches her before Cyber hurts her and tells him that Pino belongs to him as the person who stole it. Then Shiki and Rebecca storm the place with their bike and use his power to eliminate Cyber's followers in one go. Weiss took advantage of their preoccupation with fighting and stole their bike to escape with Pino. Happy was inside by mistake, and when they tried to follow him, Cyber set a trap for them, but Shiki pushed Rebecca away so she wouldn't get hurt. Cyber then entered his robot to catch up with Weiss and ordered his minions to capture Rebecca, who was trying to see if Shiki was still alive downstairs when she found his minions approaching her, trying to scare her and pick a fight with her. On the other side, Weiss found Cyber's robot chasing him, and Happy marveled at Pino's willingness to follow Cyber's orders even though he was hurting her, and asked her to run away in exchange for their help, and Weiss told him that she was his property from now on. At that time, Shiki regained consciousness and found himself in the basement of the bunker, and when he looked around, he found a robot that looked like his friend Michael, and when he approached him, he found that it was indeed him 50 years ago before he ended up in Granville, but it was broken and broken. He cried as he hugged him tightly until he turned on and said that his ID code was Johnny. Shiki was surprised that he was not Michael and surprised that he was surrounded by a pile of broken robots, so he tried to fix him as he used to do in the past, but he remembered Castellan's last words to him and that he is not the one who actually fixes them. Shiki had a hard time fixing it because of the different shape of its wires, but he refused to give up, and Johnny told him that he was a good person compared to Cyber, who used them as puppets, and when they broke down, he threw them away and said he was glad to meet a human like him before he broke down again. In the meantime, Cyber and Weiss were chasing each other until he hit him with a missile and sent them all flying off the bike, while Rebecca was in an unequal confrontation with his followers and tried to hit them with some bullets, but to no avail until Shiki appeared from the rubble and was able to beat them with one kick and then rushed out. On the other side, Weiss asked Pino to use her ability to disable Cyber's robot, but she was afraid to stand up to him, and just as they were about to die, Cyber flew out of the robot thanks to Shiki's attack from behind. Cyber was angered by his attack and decided to use his prosthetic arm, which contains the same powers as Shiki's, but Shiki beat him to the punch, causing Cyber to become enraged and rush towards him to return the blow with double effect. Shiki remembered his memories of his friends in Granville and told him that robots feel, even if they don't have hearts, before he gathered his strength and delivered a devastating blow that caused him to fall motionless. The cyber robot then took him by surprise after his bird sidekick activated the robot's self-destruct mode in an attempt to get rid of Shiki. Pino summoned her courage and approached the massive robot and used electromagnetic pulses to deactivate it. Pino succeeds in destroying the robot and disabling it before it can harm Shiki, and tells Cyber that she is a living being and is no longer his puppet. Then he is surprised by Weiss standing pointing his gun at him and feels that it is the end of him, but his gun is disabled by Pino's ability and he is unable to finish him, so he only destroys his prosthetic arm. Pino then approaches Shiki and is relieved to find that she's fine. She wonders that he's more concerned about a machine than himself, so he tells her that it's not about her gender and that they are friends after all. Meanwhile, the pirate Elsie is on her way to the planet Norma to arrest him. It turns out that Cyber was planning to use Pino to steal the planet's entire supply of military robots, but she'll be safe after the police catch Cyber and his gang. Happy is curious to ask Pino why she went back in time like they did. She told him that she doesn't remember anything after someone wiped her memory, and her only hope of regaining her memories is to see her original owner, and her hope returned when Rebecca said that she knows the original owner who made her. She then told them that Pino's creator is basically Weiss, but 50 years from now, and that they need to quickly think of a way to get back to their time. Weiss whispered to Shiki and asked him to tell him which teams will win every sport over the next 50 years. Pino asks Rebecca to accompany them back to the future to see her master, but they soon find that the police are on their way to arrest them, so they feel they are in trouble because they have no identification and have to flee. Afterward, they reach their ship and decide to return to Blue Garden to enlist the help of anyone who can take them back to the future, but they find that the police are still following them and shooting at them. Rebecca decides to take advantage of her ship's advanced capabilities compared to the police ships and flies it at full speed off the planet, but they're stuck in the sky and can't get out. Weiss joins them and tells them that he thought the ship was ahead of its time, but it seems to be just a piece of junk stuck in the clouds. He says that he needed to escape from the police, so he had to enter the ship and offered to get the ship in exchange for helping them escape to space. Rebecca was surprised when Shiki agreed to give him the ship even though it wasn't his. When she objected, he told her they needed a better ship so they could meet the mother. When Weiss took command of the ship, they were surprised that he could use the power of the Aether. Weiss used his power to enhance the ship's capabilities as if he was rebuilding it, and then launched it into space. Happy realized that he had used his power to repair him and turn him into a robot when he was on the verge of death, and Pino was surprised that he had repaired her leg without her realizing it. After they got out of Norma, Rebecca's phone started working again, and she got a call from old Weiss, and everyone was confused, and Weiss told her that they shouldn't have gone to Norma after it was put on the no-fly list. Then they found that he knew about the time gap on Norma, and that they were now back in the present, and he told them that what they encountered on the planet was another truth about the universe, as they had traveled to a world where time had been stolen, as if a monster had eaten 50 years of Norma's time. None of them could grasp the idea he was trying to convey to them, so he told them that there is a space monster called chronophage that swallows planetary time, and there is no way to fix it, so they realized that the planet was frozen in 50 years of the past. When Weiss saw the image of Shiki standing next to her, he realized that she had made friends with a human. He also recognized Pino and told her that he was the one who repaired her, but he was not her master, and said that her real master was known as the Great Demon King. Then he told them that he had to flee with the rest of the planet's inhabitants after being devoured by chronophage, and the planet Norma has a new reality in the present that does not affect the past at all, giving Weiss's version of the past the freedom to act freely, and told his younger version that he has his own path and there is no guarantee that he will live up to his age. Happy panics when he realizes it's a space pirate ship, while Shiki is excited to confront them, only to find that the ship has captured them and strapped them in. Rebecca looked at the ship's flag and was horrified to realize that the pirate who caught them was Elsie, who had taken over the 7 cosmic seas and felt that they were doomed after being at her mercy. Then they received a call from her to tell them that their ship's control system was under her control and that they were now on their way to the planet Gollust, and that she would sell them there, advising them to stay calm and not try to be reckless until they reached their destination. Weiss marveled at the past because it was a planet full of entertainment as far as he knew, but Happy told him that it is now a planet full of villains and thieves, and all activities within it are illegal. Then they were surprised by him offering Elsie to join them in exchange for his pardon, and he will help them develop their ship. Shiki scolds him and tells him that this is a betrayal of his friends. Weiss denies that he considers them his friends, and negative thoughts begin to creep into Rebecca's mind, while Shiki decides not to give in to these thieves and tells Elsie that he has decided to steal her ship and take possession of it. Elsie found this an interesting challenge, so she accepted it and told him to go up to the 2nd floor of her ship and he would find her waiting for him there. Shiki rushed to the 2nd floor, and there he found the entrance full of fungus and moldy substances. Then he saw a group of people coming towards him. Shiki thought they were space pirates, and when he prepared to face them, he realized that they were not human at all, which increased his enthusiasm to face them, and he continued to dodge their attacks and succeeded in eliminating them one by one while having fun. In the meantime, Rebecca and the others failed to stop the creatures and remained bound by their octopus-like arms until the aether charge inside Happy's body was completed and turned into 2 guns, which Rebecca used to kill the creatures and succeeded in saving everyone. Shiki then headed towards the room in front of him and was greeted by Rebecca after she transformed into her true form and activated her superpowers. Shiki realizes that she is not human and is surprised that she knows about his power that he inherited from his grandfather. Then she starts to attack him to force him to use his power against her, but he kept dodging her octopus arms until he got close enough to her and tried to strike her, but she easily blocked him. Shiki felt like he was standing in front of his grandfather, who had trained him as a child, and remembered that he couldn't beat him even after he learned to use gravity, and remembered his advice to always tell himself that he could do it. Then he asked her who she was, and she told him that she was the one who could surpass the Demon King himself. When she asked him about his goal, he told her that he wanted to be the first person to reach the mother and meet her face to face, and she told him that no one can explore beyond space, as most adventurers have gone on a journey to search for her and have not returned. He rushed towards her and told her that they would be able to do it at any cost before he summoned the strength to strike a fatal blow at her. Then he remembered the day his grandfather died and that he wanted to fix him, but he had already died and begged him not to leave him. Meanwhile, a fleet of ships was on their way to Elsie's ship, led by Justice, the leader of the Star Army, and his colleague Victory, who told him that he knew the fact that he wanted to capture Elsie because he loved her. Then a crew member named Creed tells them that he received an etheric force signal, but it doesn't belong to Elsie, and Justice realizes that she is fighting someone else on the ship. On the other side, Elsie tells Shiki that it is impossible to find the mother since his grandfather, the Demon King himself, Sakura's space ruler, could not see her, but Shiki insisted that he would be able to find her one day, and Elsie noticed that his power gradually increased until it took over his entire body, and then he managed to crush her skull in the depths of the ship. And the Justice crew found that his power rate became unknown on the radar after he learned to use the power of the gravitational comet himself. Shiki, joined by Whis and Rebecca, overpowered her and found Elsie's body melting into a strange alien body and fled from them, then appeared on the view screen laughing sarcastically to tell them that this was just a typical parasite of hers. She then said that she was using this ship as a warehouse before the bugs attacked and took the forms of the crew members using their DNA, and that Shiki was facing the weakest version of her and is now on a completely different ship. Shiki was furious that she had deceived them all this time, but she told them that they could have the ship after they cleaned it, got rid of the parasites, and defeated her clone, and that the ship now belonged to Shiki because it originally belonged to his grandfather, the Demon King, who was also looking for the mother to meet her. Shiki was surprised when she told them about her journey to meet the mother, and that instead of finding her, he found him and brought him back to Granville and made the decision to raise him and take care of him for the rest of his life, forcing Shiki to admit to Pino that her master had died a long time ago. Elsie then tells them that she owes the Demon King a promise to give Shiki the ship when he goes out into space, and that she's been messing with them about going to the planet Golest and selling them there. Shiki told her that he didn't need the ship and found it very kind of her to give him her ship, so she shocked them that she has a huge fleet of ships and this ship is just a dot in space for her. Then Elsie noticed on the radar that the Star Army was on their way towards her, and on the other side, Justice decided to start engaging her and the army ships started attacking her fleet. So Elsie decided to use evasive tactics to give Shiki and his companions time to escape, and said that his grandfather had told her in the past that whoever reaches the mother will feel as if they are born again. Rebecca checked her phone and found that they were close to the Blue Garden, while Shiki thought about how he wanted to meet Elsie again someday. Meanwhile, a mysterious entity had been released from hibernation somewhere inside the ship. Then everyone started to start cleaning the ship of parasites, while Pino was still feeling sad and frustrated by the death of her long sought after master and kept thinking about why the Demon King created her and her purpose in life. Rebecca and Happy then went to clean the ship's bathtub and felt like relaxing in it. When they finished cleaning it, they sat down to bathe in it, and Rebecca noticed that the aether was being stimulated inside her body for some reason and felt excited to be able to use the same power as Shiki. When she got excited, she lost control of herself and caused a hole in the ship that almost pulled them out, but she was lucky. Afterwards, she told Shiki what happened, but Whis did not believe that she had the ability to use aether and told her that she needed years of training to master it, but he was soon shocked when Shiki said that he learned to use it in 1 month. Then they realized that they were inside the room of his grandmother, the Demon King, when they saw his distinctive chair and its different furniture. So Shiki sat in the chair, hoping to succeed in taking the ship towards the mother and realizing his grandmother's dream, and as soon as he sat down, he found his power interacting with the chair and the room as a whole. Shiki noticed a mysterious woman welcoming him back and calling him the Demon King. He told her that his grandfather had already died, so she introduced herself to them as the one running the ship and told them that she was called Witch, one of the Demon King's 4 stars, and was now owned by Shiki as a robot. She then used her powers to clean the entire ship, purge it of parasites, and restore it to its former form as it was built, and they discovered that it was actually a much larger warship than its current size, shaped like a dragon with wings and nicknamed Eden Zero. Witch then bowed before Shiki and told him that he had become the new Demon King after the death of his grandfather, and that she had been waiting for his return for a long time, and said that the ship needed some time to return to its true strength so that they could travel with it to search for the mother. They wondered if she knew their plan to find the mother. She said that she could hear any conversation on the entire ship and could be considered part of the ship's composition. She continued that they would have to find the other 3 entities that make up the Demon King's 4 stars for the ship to regain its strength and be able to cross the border. Shiki was excited to learn that the border is a cascade of huge dragons, and a single dragon can destroy many giant ships at once. So they decided to start their journey to find the other 3 entities to collect them with Witch. Rebecca later asked her where the other entities were, and she told her that they had all gone their separate ways after their last mission together, knowing only that one of them intended to go to the planet Blue Garden, the core of the ship called the Sister. In the meantime, Shiki and the others took a tour of the ship until they came to a huge door with no specific way to open it, so Whis used the Force to open it, but to no avail, and then Witch told them that behind this door is one of the most important secrets of the ship, and that the door will only open when one of the entities appears. After arriving on Blue Garden, Whis was impressed by the sophistication of the planet 50 years after his time. So Happy and Pino suggested that he return to Norma to avoid the trouble of living in the future, but he told them that he has no intention of returning to Norma again, nor does he intend to travel with them either, but he told them that he has no intention of returning to Norma. They decide to ignore him and head towards the Syndicate to get any information about Sister. When they get there, Clarice greets them warmly, while Lobelia approaches Rebecca, mocking her as usual and wondering what kind of interesting videos she has filmed. She then approached Shiki and offered him to appear in her channel's videos. He refused and told her that he wouldn't help someone who harassed his friends like her, so she told him that she was just giving her some advice because she was talentless. After she left, Clarice told them that the guild president wanted to meet Rebecca right away, while a mysterious figure appeared in front of Lobelia as she and her guards walked down an alley, and Rebecca sat there thinking about why the president wanted to meet her. Shiki was excited to meet the president, but she told him not to accompany her and that she would try to get some information about Sister from him, and when she left, Shiki decided to take a walk around the city with Pino. While on the other side, Lobelia thought she was being chased by an admirer, but she was shocked when he crushed her guards one by one and then approached her and told her that his mission required her to accompany him home. When he grabs her to force her to accompany him by force, Shiki appears just in time to stop him from taking her, and when Pino analyzes him, she finds that he is a cyborg, so Shiki decides to help her because she is in real trouble, and Lobelia uses the opportunity to shoot a video of their fight. Meanwhile, on the planet Golist, Mr. Iliga was sitting in his palace amidst many statues of mummified girls until a servant entered and told him that a large shipment of girls would arrive soon, and Iliga emphasized that the girls should be of the type popular on the internet in order to expand his collection. On the other side, Shiki and the cyborg began to clash, exchanging blows using their powers and moving between civilian cars on the road until the cyborg used his super ninja technique and made all the cars fly through the air as if they were in space. Shiki is forced to bring the cars back to the ground himself before disaster strikes, but after chaos ensues on the road, Shiki refuses to let the civilians be a part of their fight, and the cyborgs call him an idiot for helping them in the middle of the fight. Then he received a summons to retreat and turn back. He considered Shiki lucky that he could not eliminate him now and told him that he lives on the planet Golist if he wants to challenge him again. After he left, Lobelia rushed to Shiki to thank him for saving her and that she was able to film their entire fight for her channel. Then she quickly left. After that, Shiki and Pino returned to the syndicate and found that Rebecca had not returned since she went to meet the president, so he sat waiting for her until he was surprised by the appearance of Happy in front of him, completely destroyed, so he asked him what happened to him and told him that they were attacked by a strange person on their way to the syndicate president's room, and the last thing he saw was the disappearance of Rebecca and the president before he lost consciousness and realized that it was the cyborg who was fighting him earlier and decided to go to Golus to retrieve her. Rebecca regained consciousness and found herself tied up in a dark place moving towards the unknown, surrounded by many girls tied up like her, and what caught her attention was that most of them were celebrities on the internet, and after a while the door of the ship opened and the cyborg and his colleagues appeared in front of them and told them that they had no chance to escape as they had become the property of Sister. Rebecca noticed that Happy and the guild president were not with her, then she wondered who the kidnappers were. Ganoff told her that she and the other girls had been bought by Iliga, then Mosco told her that they were Sister's cavalry, a mercenary group called Rogue Out. Rebecca marveled that Sister was the head of an illegal mercenary group despite being one of the 4 stars of the Demon King. Then Ganoff said that they would be taken to the planet Golus to sell them to Iliga. All the girls started screaming and crying, begging him to leave them alone, which made him feel uncomfortable, so he ordered them to keep quiet, except for one girl named Copa, who kept crying and screaming and lost control of herself and gave him a migraine headache. He approached her and ordered her to keep quiet. When he felt that she was not listening to him, he was about to assault her, but he was surprised by Rebecca standing in front of him to prevent him from hitting her and filling her eyes with hostility towards him. He told her that he could control the belt by applying it and started torturing her to obey him. The cyborg took the device from him and asked him not to spoil the merchandise by torturing him, then left them and went back. After that, Copa thanked Rebecca for protecting her. Then Rebecca noticed a girl who looks different from them and does not have what it takes to become famous on the internet called Couchbo, but Rebecca soon recognized her because she is filming clips of her eating. When the girls realized that she knew all of them, they realized that she had a channel like them, but they apologized to her because they had never heard of her before. Rebecca told them that she didn't have many followers and tried to convince them to join forces to get out of here. A girl named Milan told her that once they get to Golist, none of them will survive, but Rebecca refused to give up and tried to motivate them with some words of encouragement. On the other side, Shiki was on his way to Golist and his only thought was to get Rebecca back. Pino wondered if Happy would be okay after the injuries he had sustained, and Witch told her that his condition was not serious, but that there were limits to what her powers could do due to the absence of the other entities, and she wished that the one with the healing power was with them right now. She then began to explain to Pino the role of each entity inside the ship and told her that the Demon King created her to be their successor, then warned Shiki that they may not be able to save Rebecca if they reach the most dangerous planets in the galaxy without a plan. Wes was surprised to find Wes inside the ship with a mysterious girl who introduced herself as Homura and told him that she was not his enemy. Shiki wondered why they were on the ship, and Wes began to tell him about what happened to him after he left them on Blue Garden, where he went to the Syndicate and saw on the news the spread of various kidnappings kidnappings in the city, and then found him rushing out with Pino and realized that something was wrong. And that's when he met Homura and suspected her when he realized that she knew the name of the ship. She asks him if he is a member of the ship and asks him to help her get on the ship in exchange for helping them rescue their friends who have been kidnapped. When Weiss asks her what her goal is to get on the ship, she tells him that she wants to fight the Demon King. He agreed to take her to the ship on one condition, which he refused to disclose before they rescue Rebecca, which warned that there was someone inside the ship who threatened the life of the Demon King Shiki, and Weiss did not have the authority to allow anyone to board the ship. Pino asked why he was with them now, and he told her that he wanted to help the girls who were kidnapped to Golest, while Shiki told Homura that he is not the Demon King who is after him. She said that her focus is now on saving the kidnapped girls, and she revealed her power and told them that she can use Aether, and Witch was shocked that she uses a special technique. Then the kidnapper's ship arrived on the planet Golest, and the girls started walking like slaves in harnesses and found the planet to be a complete ruin, full of corpses and skeletons, and one girl was walking towards them, helpless and asking for help before she lost consciousness. Ganoff reasoned that this girl had no master, as it would be impossible for a girl to survive on this planet or escape her owner. He then advised the girls to answer Elega yes, sir, to anything he said if they wanted to keep their lives. Then he locked them in a large hallway, and each of them waited for the unknown, while Rebecca thought that she had been kidnapped with 29 girls, which is enough for them to work together to escape from here. But her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of Elega welcoming them to his palace. When most of the girls asked him why they were here and why he only kidnapped popular girls on the internet, they were shocked when he said that his favorite hobby was turning girls into furniture inside his mansion. And when he thought they didn't know what furniture was, he made them watch a live example in front of them where a girl begs to be left alive while someone fires a ray on her to turn her into a solid object that becomes a statue in a matter of seconds. All the girls were terrified and started screaming and begging for their lives. Then they were surprised that he leaked a large amount of foam into the hallway that melted their clothes until they were completely naked. And Rebecca decided not to give up and that she would escape no matter what and teach Elega a lesson. After that, Shiki and his companions arrived at the planet Golest. Then they found a giant tree in front of them, and Homura told them that the planet in the past was blessed and contained an abundance of Aether. Shiki imagined that if Rebecca and Happy had been with them, they would have thought to take a video of the giant tree and the cities built on it and vowed to get Rebecca back and leave this horrible place. They wandered around until they found the name of the mercenary squad written on one of the buildings, so they decided to enter the place immediately without thinking of any risks. And when they entered, they found only a large statue at the end of the hallway, and the place looked like a church, and they found that the statue was able to talk to them. Then they were surprised to find it opened, and a robot nun came out and told them that she was Sister, the leader of the mercenary squad. Hano shares what she sees with Witch on the ship, who is skeptical of Sister's identity and thinks that she doesn't look like the sister she knows, even though she has the same tone of voice and identification code, so she tells him to be careful. Shiki told her that he was looking for her and asked her why she was doing something bad like becoming a mercenary and a kidnapper. She said that there is nothing good or bad about being a mercenary and that it all depends on contracts and agreements. When she realized that he came for Rebecca, she told them that she would return her to them for double the price they paid for her. When Shiki found him complaining about the agreement, she ordered her army to take them and detain them until she could make them her soldiers later. Shiki used his strength to get past the soldiers and get to her, and started taking them down until one of them fired a missile at him, and he tried to dodge it until Homura sliced him in half with her sword. She then told them to follow Sister while she took care of the soldiers here. Then she split her sword in two and attacked them all at once without being hit by a single bullet from their weapons thanks to her speed, telling them that her sword is a sacred power passed on to her by her master, and that this sword is capable of defeating the Demon King himself. In the meantime, Sister went to her ship, thinking that Elega had caused her a lot of trouble, and on top of that, he wouldn't pay her money because he asked for 30 girls and she brought him 29, so she decided to try to negotiate with him for this mistake and held herself responsible for letting Ganoff handle it on his own. Meanwhile, Shiki and Pino were clinging to the vehicle while Ganoff was negotiating with Elega's employees about the missing girl and that it was an honest mistake, and when he saw that they were still refusing to pay him, he asked to meet Elega himself. Then Sister arrived and said she would negotiate with him herself while Shiki and Pino watched from afar. Rebecca pondered her fate until Milan told her that the content of her channel was to wander into dangerous places to attract viewers, and she admitted that everything she filmed was fake and that she was not in any real danger. Rebecca told her that they would get out of here and none of them would die, and she thought about the foam formula that melted all their clothes and accessories and realized that it could melt glass as well, so she thought they could use the foam to melt the glass of the room's window, but it was too high for the foam to reach. One of the girls thought they should make a human pyramid and one of them at the top would foam the glass. When they did, Rebecca went upstairs and tried to wash the glass with the foam. In time, the girls couldn't support their weight and they all fell, while she clung to the window ledge until she succeeded in opening the window. Then she found that there was no one in the opposite room and felt that there might be several guards behind the door of the room, so she thought to pass through the ventilation hole, and when she reached the food storage room, she felt something sticky pulling her by her feet, and was surprised to find that it was Iliga's tongue. Iliga marveled that she was able to get out of the room and decided to make her his toy instead of a piece of furniture. She asked him why he was doing all this, and he told her that he has money that makes him able to do anything and force everyone to submit to him. Rebecca felt anesthesia seeping into her feet, but Iliga was surprised when Shiki appeared out of nowhere and attacked him viciously, punching and smashing his head until Pino used her electromagnetic waves to stop his power. Rebecca is surprised when the rest of the girls break free and get some clothes. Then Shiki notices that someone is watching them, and soon the cyborg Jin suddenly appears in front of them, but he immediately tackles him before he can do anything. Then he asked Pino to run away with the girls, but Jin told him that he would not allow him to interfere with the work of the band and would not allow the goods to leave the palace, and Shiki told him that they are human beings, not goods to be sold, and vowed to protect them until they return home. In the meantime, Homura was able to eliminate all of Sister's soldiers, and Whis was impressed by the power of her sword and began to inspect the robot soldiers and found that they were well made, while Homura felt an etheric force coming from below. Then she found Whis pointing his weapon at her and questioning her to tell him her real purpose for helping them. She wondered that he was pointing his weapon at his allies, and he told her that he was no one's ally. She told him that firearms were useless against her, and he told her that he was an ether user like her, and she could not defeat him as easily as the soldiers. Then their conversation was interrupted by Mosco storming the church, and Homura was surprised that Whis had set up an ambush of weapons and machine guns in advance and made her attack Mosco with a barrage of bullets in one go to make him fall without moving, and she found herself in trouble in front of someone as smart as Whis. Meanwhile, Witch found the ship's system warning of a high flow of etheric force in the space around them and was shocked to see all the planets disappearing one by one, and it turned out to be the time-devouring chronophage on his way to Golest. Appy is worried about Rebecca and the others, and when he asks Witch what will happen to them if chronophage devours time in Golest while they are inside, she tells him that everyone on the planet will be wiped out and will never come back, and she finds that he will reach Golest within an hour, so she decides to land the ship inside the planet to save everyone. In the meantime, Shiki and Jin began to clash and exchange attacks, with Shiki having the advantage against Jin, who was surprised by his increased strength and told him that this time he was fighting for his team. Interrupted by Sister and Ganoff joining them and noticing that Shiki was deliberately following her, she decides to task Jin with finding Iliga and getting rid of him. Jin wonders where they get rich customers like Iliga, and she says she intends to take everything Iliga has. Jin and Ganoff were shocked when he challenged her face to face and told her that he intended to finish her off right here and now, while Sister, impressed by his boldness, took off her robe and prepared to confront him, telling him that his death would be quicker than he imagined. In the meantime, Pino and Rebecca were on their way out of the palace with the rest of the girls, but they noticed that Copa had disappeared, so Rebecca decided to go back to look for her alone, and when she asked Pino to guide the others towards the exit, she was surprised by her response that it makes no sense for them to go back to look for one person. Rebecca tells her that she is their friend and that she has to go back for her, and that it would be bad to abandon her and move on. Pino is surprised that she would risk her life to look for a stranger who was not related to her. On the other side, Whis kept his gun pointed at Homura and asked her to tell him the truth behind her goals, but they were interrupted by a violent noise, and Homura realized that it was a strong etheric reaction coming from below, and when they went towards the source of the sound, they found Sister Ivory, one of the Demon King's 4 stars. She wondered if he could free her with his powers and asked him to trust her so that they could leave the planet. Whis found that he had no choice but to cooperate with her. Meanwhile, Shiki narrowly avoided Ganoff's fireballs and tried to block him by firing a few of his powers in the form of balls at him and managed to inflict significant damage. When he directed his attack at Sister, he was surprised to find her using Jin as a shield to block his attacks. Shiki was furious at her behavior, but she treated their wounds as if nothing had happened, and the 3 of them continued to face him. Meanwhile, Rebecca searches for Copa until she finds her hat in the middle of the hallway and finds herself in a room filled with the bodies of girls who had been turned into furniture. Iliga appears behind her, holding Copa and ordering her to kneel down. Then he put his foot on her head to humiliate her and told her that she would spend the rest of her life as his personal toy. Then one of the servants rushed into the room and told him that the planet-devouring chronophage was heading towards them, and he panicked so much that he threw Copa away. Then he was shocked when he realized that he would have to flee the planet and give up his furniture and possessions. The servant told him that he could start from scratch on another planet and that he was in danger because of Sister's betrayal. Iliga thought about taking at least Copa and Rebecca with him, but he was shocked to see that Rebecca had taken his weapon and fired the beam at him. At the same time, Shiki attacked Sister and her followers and managed to inflict great damage on them all at once. Sister was was furious, and just as she was about to use her healing ability again, Ivory joined them and prevented her from using her power, which is basically Ivory's power, and sentenced her to clean the Demon King's toilet. Before Shiki realizes it, Whis and Homura join them to warn Shiki of the approaching apocalypse, and Gandalf decides that they should make a quick getaway, while Ivory's sudden appearance distracts Jin. When he questions her identity, Ivory tells him that she came to this planet 10 years ago to fulfill a mission, and the last thing she remembers is being kidnapped by aliens and locked in a filthy church basement. He was surprised when she said that Sister was an imposter using her name and power as her own. Sister felt she was in trouble after being exposed and explained that her initial intention was to heal the infected, but over time, she evolved into her own army. She begged her to forgive her because she didn't mean to do anything bad with her power, but Ivory attacked her and kept beating her, vowing to torture her forever by constantly breaking and repairing her. Then she notices Shiki standing in front of her, and when she realizes that he is the real Demon King, she tells him that he looks like a coward to her and that she has learned of his intention to reunite the team inside the ship through the witch's ability. She then decides to start her mission that she came for 10 years ago before escaping from the planet. She takes off her robe and uses her ability on the entire mansion, at which time Rebecca is surprised by all the furniture girls coming back to life, and then they all start walking out of the mansion after Ivory's mission is over. On his way out, Shiki noticed that Jin was still standing in front of him and told him that they would finish their fight later, while all Jin could think about was that he had been tricked by a con artist who claimed to have superpowers and was working for her in hopes of saving his sister, so he crushed her face with his foot. Meanwhile, chaos reigned in the streets of Golest as everyone tried to flee the planet before Chronophage arrived. Rebecca came out of the palace and joined the rest of the girls and asked them all to leave without her, as she wanted to wait for Shiki to come out. Eno receives a signal that Shiki and the others are about to arrive, but buildings begin to collapse around them, and Pino receives an abnormal reading on the gravitational field as the aether on the planet flows in the opposite direction. Then they were surprised by the tree growing faster than normal from underground, and Rebecca almost fell after the ground beneath her collapsed. But Shiki arrived just in time to save her, and then the others joined them and saw the ship approaching from between the branches of the tree. Then Witch told them that the tree prevents them from landing, so Whis and Homura decided to practice their favorite hobby of cutting things, and Ivory was amazed when she saw Homura's sword, and after they finished cutting down a good part of the trees, Shiki ordered her to land, but she saw that there was not enough space for the ship to land. He decides to take matters into his own hands and has everyone cling to him, then uses his power to fly towards the ship, and they manage to get inside, and Witch uses the ship's maximum speed once inside to escape from Golest before he is devoured by Chronophage. Afterward, it turned out that Chronophage had devoured 1,200 years of the planet's life, and the day became known as Golest Purification Day, as the planet returned to its former state of peace, tranquility, and nature's flourishing. Shiki and his companions watched from the ship's window and were relieved that they were able to survive before they were wiped out. Shiki cried like a baby at the thought of almost losing his friends if he delayed too long. When Witch and Ivory were reunited, I told her that Shiki was the child the Demon King had found and taken with him to Granbell, and now he was the new Demon King after the Master's death. Then they all sat down to think about finding the rest of the sisters so that the ship can regain its strength as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Witch doesn't know the whereabouts of the two remaining sisters, then she was curious to ask Homura how she got the sword and if it belonged to Valkyr. Homura replied that it belongs to her, but she does not know her whereabouts like them and wants to find her because she is her teacher and disappeared without a trace. They felt proud that Valkyr has a strong student like her, and also told them that Valkyr used to tell her about the power of the Demon King, and that is why she wanted to challenge Shiki as his successor. Shiki says that he doesn't want to fight his friends, so she tells him that competition doesn't necessarily mean war, and that she wants to challenge him someday in the future, and asks them to let her stay on the ship and go on the journey with them. Then Whis was surprised that everyone's attention was directed towards him while he was thinking aloud about how to find the sisters, and realized that he had become part of the team whether he liked it or not, as he had helped them all in many situations inside Golest, and found that he had no choice but to stay with them as he was homeless and had no place to stay. Shiki extended his hand to him to shake his hand, and when he approached him, he was surprised that he was shaking hands with Moscow, and they were all shocked that he was on the ship with them. So Ivory told them that he had followed her from the beginning and would work for them, but in the past he was deceived like the others in the sister who impersonated her. She then expresses her anger at finding him in a pitiful state after someone attacked him and swears she'll make him pay when she finds him, but Whis remains silent so he doesn't die. Meanwhile, in the Starfleet, Justice received a report that Golest had been eaten by Chronophage and was sorry for the lives lost in this attack, so Commander Jaguar approached him and told him that because of Chronophage, they lost track of the man and caused Golest to turn into an evil cell, a man named Draken Joe, aka the Black Alchemist. On the other side, sisters Ivory Ivory and Witch sat chatting, and Witch told her that she spent all 10 years inside the ship while Elsie protected her, and said that she couldn't wait to meet the rest of the sisters and go to outer space. Ivory remembered Pino, their successor, and Witch told her that she would be the light of Aiden's one day. Afterward, Shiki returns Rebecca's camera to her after he found it in the tower before their escape, and when they gather with the others, they notice that Homura is not among them, and Weiss tells them that he stipulates that she must wear all the clothes he chooses for her in exchange for joining them. Rebecca then received a call from Clarice and found her crying with joy that she was still alive, and when she asked her about the guild leader, she told her that she was able to escape before the mercenaries threw her on the ship with them. Rebecca told her that they were on their way to Blue Garden, but Clarice advised her to stay away from the planet for a while as the kidnapping and devouring of Golest was all over the news after the celebrity girls made statements about what happened to them during the incident and her help in escaping. Rebecca felt embarrassed because she had become an overnight sensation, and Happy found that their channel's viewership was increasing, yet they were getting bad reviews, so Clarice suggested that she return after things had calmed down a bit. Rebecca decides to take advantage of the opportunity and start working on new clips for her channel. Pino then wonders how they will be able to find clues about the sisters' whereabouts when they are forbidden to go to Blue Garden. Ivory tells them that during the Dark Ages, these heroes defended Sakura Space and are known as the Knights of the Space Sky and the Guardians of Blue Garden. Then they notice a mysterious person on the hill. And Ivory is surprised to discover that it is the third sister, Hermit. Shiki and his companions are excited to have found Hermit so quickly, but Ivory tells them that she has always loved the atmosphere on this hill and likes to sit on it. But then she realizes that something is wrong with her and asks them to bring her inside the ship. Ivory examines her and finds that she's not moving or talking, as if she's dead. Ivory realizes that her operating system is malfunctioning and her healing powers can't handle it, so Shiki asks if Weiss can fix her. Witch takes a look at her and realizes that she has a damaged heart. They realize that something so terrible has happened to her that she has shut down her heart, and the machines can't help her because they don't have a clear understanding of hearts. Shiki had an idea to go inside Hermit's heart and repair it by creating a specialized machine to do so, but Weiss thought his idea was useless, while Witch thought that maybe her heart was on Digitalis. Hermit is now in what is known as a dive mode, which is when her heart is out of her body and her soul goes into a digital realm, and Digitalist is a place where the physical body has no effect and is considered the size of an entire space. When Shiki is excited to go there and save her, she tells him that they can't enter the planet in the physical body and everyone has to go into digital form, which is a big risk. Rebecca says that the planet started out as a server for a role-playing game, but the NPCs upgraded themselves, upsetting the balance of the game and causing everyone to abandon it. Witch realized that the world inside Digitalis had become more like the real world, full of digital people, and Hermit loved the game, so Shiki promised to rescue Hermit and get her off the planet. Witch then told them that the planet was a virtual world and she wouldn't be able to support them inside, but they would be able to use their real-world abilities, and any damage done to them inside the planet would affect their physical bodies. Then they all entered a capsule to transfer to the digital world, similar to the heroes of Lyoko, and began the process of diving into the planet, and Shiki found himself floating moments later in the air, and the planet's system asked him to design his in-game character. Rebecca and Happy landed on the planet quickly and felt as if it was real and somewhat similar to Granville, and Rebecca marveled at how late the others had landed. Then, to their surprise, a mysterious figure appears in front of them, riding an animal that looks like a llama in Fortnite, except that its head movement is very annoying if you focus on it. When Rebecca asks him who he is, he tells her that he is an exiled prince leading his people in a battle to reclaim his homeland. Rebecca realizes it's Homura due to her issue with involuntarily speaking what's inside her head out loud and wonders why she chose a male character. Weiss then joins them with his disgusting new female character. Then Pino joined them after she chose to transform herself into a human form, and her familiar form didn't change much, while Shiki appeared as a large, muscular man and told them that he couldn't choose a distinctive form, so he used the usual appearance. He later modified his character and restored his hairstyle from when he lived in Granville, and Rebecca found that the game's front view data was missing because the developers wanted to make it more realistic. When Weiss was about to modify it, Rebecca stopped him and warned them that they must not modify the planet's data or make any changes to it, or they would be kicked out of the game and never enter it again. After that, they all headed to the nearest town and noticed that it looked like a real town, and there they met an old man, an NPC, who was happy to see new players in the town. Remembering from Witch's speech that the characters on the planet have consciousness and self-development, Rebecca told him that they were looking for someone, and when she told him her name, he told her that the city was big and that they would definitely meet someone who knew her. When he left, Homura was confused because because the hyper-realism on this planet would make them unable to distinguish between real players and virtual characters, and they might run into players with bad intentions on their way. After that, they all split into groups to ask the townspeople about Hermit's whereabouts, but to no avail. In the evening, they gathered without being able to get a single piece of information about her, except that someone told Pino that he had seen her in some city in the north, so Shiki decided to go north tomorrow. Meanwhile, a mysterious man enters the traveler's hotel and asks the manager where Hermit is and tells him that he knows she's here. When the bar manager denies it, he threatens him and tells him that he can eliminate any NPC without being banned because he's the chosen player. On the ship, Ivory noticed that there was strange data trying to merge with them, like hacking data, and thought it might belong to someone trying to harm the team in the virtual world. While the team began their journey north the next day in-game, Shiki told them that he had met many like him in Granville, but they were robots and did nothing, and he was excited to face him. When he prepared to give him a good beating, they were surprised to find that he was a talking monster and told them that he was not a bad monster. Then he told them that there is a city in the north called Krista and advised them to go there to activate the mission to recover the city's secret treasure, but the city is now in trouble because the thug Jamilov has appeared there, a terrifyingly evil person who does not distinguish between a real player and an NPC, forcing him to flee to avoid death. They marveled at the idea of someone attacking virtual characters without being banned, and when they asked him about Hermit, he told them that he usually saw her sitting staring at the sky on the hill without participating in any of the game's events. Afterward, they made their way to the city and found the situation inside to be disastrous and chaotic. They found a malfunctioning virtual character wandering around, but soon Jamilov's blade pierced his body, and he was excited to see real players. Then he told them that he was looking for new players who had recently entered the game but ended up in this boring city for him. Then he encountered real but useless players, so he planted them inside a pillar at the top of the hotel, and then they saw many people suffering and still alive. He told them that his special powers prevent them from leaving the game, which means they are in endless torment and their lives are over in the real world. He then introduces himself and tells them that he is the chosen player and one of the winners of the game, and that he works for Drac and Joe. Homura realizes that he works for one of the 6 warriors who caused the destruction of entire planets, while Shiki is furious at his actions and decides to take revenge on him. Shiki decides to use his strength to attack Jamilov, who advises him to surrender as he still has a chance to retreat, but Shiki rushes at him, and Jamilov's scythe turns into an animated monster and hits him with a painful blow, and he is surprised that the scythe ate his hair. Jamilov then started attacking the others and caused chaos. Shiki tried to damage him by throwing part of the building over his head. Jamilov got up from the rubble and had to retreat after he received a signal from Drac and Joe that they would finish their fight later. After he was out of the game, they realized that they were in trouble with such a psychopath and that they had to find Hermit and get off the planet quickly before he came back. They found the townspeople thanking them for saving them from the Ripper and wanting to return the favor. They asked where Hermit was, and a civilian told them that she was sitting on a hill in the west of the city. They warned them that an ogre lived in the cave on that hill, stealing the city's secret treasures, and Rebecca remembered the coward they had met on their way to the city. Then they reached the hill and found Hermit sitting alone there. When she sensed their presence, she turned towards them and asked who they were, and Shiki introduced himself and told her that he was the captain of the Eden Zero ship, and her eyes shone when she heard the name of the city. Then Shiki told her that they had come to find her, and while they were talking, he noticed that Homura was not with them, so Waste told him that she had gone to check the city. Then he was surprised when Hermit refused to join them and leave the planet because she likes to stay here. When they told her that they had already taken her body inside the ship, she asked them to return it to the Iron Hill. Shiki approached her to encourage her to get up, but she pushed him away and said that she hates humans. On the other side, Homura went to meet with Jesse, a member of the Star Army crew, in secret. It turns out that Homura is working as a spy for the Star Army and planned from the beginning to gain the trust of Shiki and his companions so that she could enter the ship and learn their secrets. And after they all returned, they were frustrated by Hermit's reaction to them and her refusal to join them. Then Shiki remembered what Witch had said on the ship, that Hermit might have some damage to her heart, so he decided to try again alone, but their conversation was interrupted by the sound of sudden bells, and they felt that something was wrong outside. And when they came out of the inn, they found all the townspeople standing at attention and were startled when they saw a huge army of monsters on their way to them. Then they stopped in the middle of the road, and their leader named Garen came out and told the townspeople that they came to take over the entire city by the order of their leader Jamilov, and that they have absolute freedom to eliminate the virtual characters while they will take the real players alive because he wants to eliminate them himself. Shiki is furious and asks them why they are doing this, and Garen tells him that they are trying to fulfill fulfill the Monster City plan, where they will give their lives and themselves as experience points for Jamlov after he spills all of their blood. Shiki attacks them when they start rushing towards them like crazy. Then Pino notices the bats and birds heading towards the hill at Hermit and decides to follow them and let his friends take care of the monsters in the city. And after he leaves, they notice Homura has disappeared from their midst. In the meantime, Homura contacted Jesse and asked him to locate Jamlov. He asked her if she intended to leave Shiki and his companions, and she told him that they were not bad people, but they had fulfilled their role for her. Hermit found the bats coming towards her and realized that she was going to die, but she didn't even think about resisting, as she would rather die at the hands of monsters than humans. But she was surprised when Shiki appeared out of nowhere to pick her up and fly her away from the hill. Homura found Jamlov in the western forest and thought she had come to face him alone, but she offered to do anything in exchange for his help in joining Drac and Joe's organization. Hermit, on the other hand, noticed that Shiki was using the same powers as the former Demon King. He told her that he had learned to master them thanks to him, but she refused to believe a word he said because he was human and thought that he had somehow acquired the Demon King's powers. He told her that not all humans are bad, and since she was his grandfather's friend in the past, he could consider her his friend now, and decided to take her back to the others. Then, to their surprise, the cave-dwelling monster returned to help them defeat the monsters and told them that he had to protect his city as its guardian despite his fear. Gyron was outraged at the thought of a side chief trying to stand up to an entire army. However, he soon found himself getting beaten up by Shiki after returning from the hill and took care of the remaining monsters and managed to kill them all. But to his surprise, more monsters came with Jamlov and ended up trapped in the center of the city. The monsters then fired arrows at the virtual characters, but the side boss took all the damage for them and sacrificed himself for the people of the city, falling motionless after being hit by countless arrows. Homura then took the bow and took aim at a little girl, but it hit Shiki, who quickly ducked to save the child, and Hermit marveled that he would sacrifice himself to save an NPC that was neither human nor robot, and then they were all shocked when they learned that Homura had betrayed them and joined Jamlov's side. She then turned her attention to Shiki and told him that the child he had protected was just programmed data and not a living being like them, and when Pino questioned her about her desire to find Valkyr, she told her that it was a story she made up to be a good reason for them to accept her on the ship and offered to give him one last chance to escape. But Jamlov doesn't let them escape, as he orders all the monsters to fire their arrows at once, and while Shiki is thinking of a way to dodge them, Homura returns to her original form and uses her sword to block all the arrows and save everyone from perishing. Shiki is surprised to see two versions of Homura standing in front of him at the same time. The original Homura tells him that she found herself in prison for some reason when she arrived on the planet, and it took her 2 days to escape the prison and gather information about their whereabouts. Pino wonders how the imposter was able to learn so much about them. Jamilov gets angry when he realizes that things aren't going as he planned and starts attacking his monsters hysterically and decides to settle the matter himself. When Homura notices the imposter's escape attempt, she decides to follow him while Shiki takes Jamilov man to man. The others notice that he has illegally modified the planet's data and increased his power level to give himself an advantage. Hermit tells them that they will have to cheat like he did in order to keep up with him. Homura, on the other hand, continues to chase her impersonator into the forest. When she asked him who he was, he told her that he was a person with the ability to copy the appearance, personality, and memories of anyone who wished to take his form, and that he had used it to get close to Jamilov. But since his mission had failed, he no longer needed the disguise, and he returned to his original form, which turned out to be a blonde girl named Amira working for the Galactic Intelligence Agency. Homura realized that she was after Jamilov to capture him, but Amira told her that her main goal was to get to Drac and Joe, and she didn't necessarily need to disguise herself. But interestingly enough, Jessie knew her. Then she decided to end her life after knowing everything about her, so she started shooting at her, but Homura easily avoided her bullets, so she turned her pistol into a sniper rifle and tried to shoot her at close range, but she was surprised that she was able to block her bullet and reflect it back at her, and she disappeared in a flash. Afterward, Amira returned to the real world when she exited the game, and it turns out that she is actually a disfigured face with no features, so she is confident that no one will be able to catch her in real life. On the other side, Shiki and Jamilov were still confronting each other. When Hermit tried to convince the others to cheat their way to defeat Jamilov, Rebecca felt bad about the idea because she hates cheating, while Waste decided to cheat, reverted to his original form, and started reprogramming the planet's system to suit him. Meanwhile, Shiki and Jamilov were trading blows. Jamilov soon realized that someone was trying to reprogram the game and told them that it wouldn't work against him. Weiss found the code too complicated, and Hermit realized that he didn't know how to program properly. She decides to do something to help them because she wants to kick Jamilov off the planet for good, and she tells him that she's going to use his account to cheat and modify the planet's data to avoid being kicked off the planet. Then she told them that this is how Jamilov does it, and that's why he doesn't get kicked out of the game, as he modifies the data using the accounts of other players who get kicked out in his place. Then she completely erased Jamilov's power and doubled Shiki's power and turned him into a kaiju. So he decided to reprogram and erase his power. And when he rushes to attack him, Hermit protects him by giving him a shield that absorbs the power of the Scythe Strike. As time went on, Hermit and Jamlov's actual confrontation was in the programming, while Shiki was a spectator as they added and removed features. And when Jamlov had enough, he decided to use the final code and erased all the city's landmarks, buildings, and even virtual characters and monsters. Then, to everyone's surprise, Hermit can't undo the final code because it is a program dedicated to the annihilation of this world, and no one will be able to modify the game data again, not even him. At that time, Shiki felt angry at what Jamlov had done and attacked him, while Jamlov was enjoying watching everything being wiped out around him. Shiki's anger increased and he used all his power to strike Jamlov before the game world was wiped out, who was shocked by the damage he was taking despite being the strongest defender. Hermit told him that real players can use their powers from the real world, and with simple math he would be finished after 22 hits from Shiki, and Shiki kept punching him until he managed to beat him and kick him out of the game. After that, they found the city returning to normal after the final code was deactivated with Jamlov out of the game, and Whis couldn't finish his speech as he was kicked out of the game because Hermit used his account to cheat in-game, and then Shiki approached her and told her it was time to go home. Hermit remembered her last meeting with the Demon King when he told them that they had been freed from their role as the Demon King's shining stars and that each of the sisters were free to follow their own path, and she told him that she wanted to help humans and make them all friends. Hermit regained consciousness inside the ship and found Witch and Ivory next to her. She told them that her return did not mean that she was joining them, but that she was resting after a long dive, and when she got up, she found herself too weak to walk, but she continued to get up and told them that she would return to Digitalis after she repaired her body and asked them to return it to the Iron Hill, and Ivory thought that they had not brought her heart yet. Afterwards, Shiki and his companions returned to the real world, with Pino feeling sad to be in a robotic body again, and Whis feeling angry that Hermit had taken advantage of him and gotten him kicked off the planet. Then they all gathered with the sisters, and Ivory told them that Hermit's heart is somewhere else, and they still don't know what happened to her after leaving the ship to look so sad and desperate. So Shiki decided to go to talk to her a little, but they were surprised by a huge collision on the ship. Then a pirate hacked the ship's system and appeared on the display screen, and it turned out to be Jamlov, who they met in the game, in his real-world name Spider Egg, the pirate genius. Rebecca tells them that he is a famous pirate who has earned billions through piracy and is considered the best person in secure space in his field, and Witch is shocked that he was able to easily hack into the ship's system and take full control of it. Spider starts causing explosions inside the ship by controlling it, and Witch realizes that this will cause the ship to be completely destroyed in a matter of minutes, and the only one who can stop him is Hermit, who is trapped in the locker room alone, and when she contacts her, she refuses to help and suggests that they evacuate. Shiki decides to go talk to her and convince her to join them, while Hermit is lost in her memories of when she once helped humans build an Aether accelerator that, according to Professor Muller, could save a large number of robots, a planet full of robots that had been neglected by humans and was suffering from a severe shortage of Aether. Hermit asked him why he wanted to help the planet, and he replied that humans need machines as much as machines need humans, so she felt that he was doing a great job and sincerely wanted to help the robots and decided to help him with his research to create the device. Hermit has been working hard in research to help the professor finish the device as soon as possible, and she has been working non-stop, and the researchers felt proud that humans and robots are working together and that this is what Professor Muller has been striving for from the beginning. Hermit wondered if he could become her human friend and was surprised to find that everyone welcomed her as a friend and felt as if they were her family. After some time, one of the robots working in the research field told her that he had been assigned to move to the project on the planet Hawk, and they would place receivers to receive the Aether from the accelerator. Hermit felt that they were finally close to building the device that would help save a large number of robots and bring them back to life, and after several days it was time to test the device for the first time after it was completely finished, and she was nervous that the device would fail to transmit the Aether. Once they released a massive amount of Aether towards the planet, they received a report from the research robots that the amount of Aether was disproportionate to the receptors, and Hermit was shocked to see the entire planet Hook wiped out by the Aether explosion inside. She was even more surprised by the reaction of Professor Muller and the rest of the researchers as they celebrated the destruction of the planet and the elimination of all the robots. Muller then ordered them to dispose of her, and she realized that she had been deceived into contributing to the elimination of her species without realizing it. Then he told her that he didn't want to send her to the planet to ensure that there was someone to maintain the device in case something went wrong, but now they no longer needed her, and expressed his hatred for worthless robots who act as if they were human beings and wanted to wipe them out of space. One of the researchers suggested that they use her as a test subject for the Aether separator. They captured her and locked her up in the lab as a test subject. 2 years later, all the robots that weren't destroyed in the Hawk accident malfunction in Hermit was the only one they could still do research on. When Muller realized that they couldn't find any results, he began to take take out his anger on Hermit, beating her when he was in a bad mood and practicing all kinds of sadism on her. One day, the lab was attacked by Starfleet Special Forces, and they took Hermit away after deciding to shut down the lab and cancel the research. When Hermit realized this, she left the lab on her own, ignoring everything after she lost her trust in everyone and became oblivious to reality, which is why she decided to go to the planet Digitalis, where there are no humans, and stay there for the rest of her life. In the present, Shiki and the others entered the dressing room and approached her to convince her to help them and that they need her, but she insisted on refusing to help humans and robots that have anything to do with them or deal with them. Rebecca approached her and raised her head to make her look into her eyes as she spoke in a final attempt to convince her that not all humans were bad and evil, all the humans on the ship cared about the robots, and that her best friend was a robot cat himself. Then she told her about what happened on Granbell when she first met Shiki and how all the people she thought were friends attacked them, and she remembered what happened to her in the research lab. But Rebecca told her that despite what happened, Shiki still considers all robots to be his friends. Then Shiki told her that he will never understand the pain she feels inside, but he is sure that she is crying because she realizes that not all humans are bad and yet she cannot trust them, and he said that he will not abandon the ship because he trusts her and asked her to trust herself, and when he asked her what she wants, she said that she wants them all to be her friends. Hermit regained her spirit and energy, gathered herself together, began to provide the ship with support, regained control of the system again, and began to fix all the glitches caused by Spider, who did not realize what was happening in front of him and that he was starting to lose control of the ship. Hermit and the others appeared on the view screen and told him that his ship was within range of Aiden Zero's long-range cannon, and he realized it was the end for him. When he saw her press the red button, he thought she was going to destroy his ship immediately, but he soon realized that she had tricked him and launched some fireworks around the ship and had no intention of attacking him, and they all burst out laughing at his reaction. And then Witch joined them and was relieved that Hermit had regained her joy and told them that she had the most beautiful smile anyone had ever seen in his life. Homura sat in the bathtub with Rebecca to wash as part of her training to withstand the high temperature of the water and to boost her body with Aether. Then Rebecca asked her about her mentor Valkyrie. She said that she had been missing for 5 years after she suddenly disappeared one day, though she felt confident that they would find her as they had found Ivory and Hermit, and thought she would show her how she had progressed over the years. Meanwhile, Shiki and Whis were enjoying their time eating food, and he wanted to give Pino some to taste, but she told him that she has no sense of taste and all she needs is an energy drink. So he felt sorry for her and cried and asked Whis to help her to be able to eat. Pino tells him that she is confident that one day she will be able to do everything like humans and expresses her desire to become human. Shiki is excited about her desire and encourages her while Whis sits and thinks about it, as it is impossible for a robot to become human. Then the legend of the mother who is able to rebirth people comes to his mind, and this may be the only way. Meanwhile, Amira scolded Jessie for entering Digitalis without disguise, telling her that he went there on his own time and warning her not to let anyone know the source of her information about Digitalis. Amira thought that now that she knew where Spider was, she should go and sneak there to discover Draken Joe's hideout, while on the other side, Spider was furious and vowed to show everyone the terrifying power of Draken Joe. As he headed towards his room, a girl named Maria intercepted him and told him that he was in a meeting and should come back later, but he didn't listen to her and insisted on meeting him now. And when he entered the room, he found him with the skeleton Anderson and Diego. Then he was shocked to find him putting a bottle in someone's mouth and humiliating them. Draken Joe turned to him and seemed not to remember him. He told him that he was Spider, who works in the technology department of his company, and that he once repaired his computer. Turns out he's holding a hostage. He borrowed $2 million, owes $5 million with interest, and today is his last chance to pay. Joe warns him that he has to pay back what he borrowed and advises him not to move too much because the bottle in his mouth is the heaviest metal in Golest. Joe then used his strength to make the bottle heavier to knock his head down further and then broke it, shattering part of his mouth. He told him he wasn't going to get rid of him so he could get his money back and offered him a job as a lab rat for his company until he could pay up. When he asked his followers how much he had lost since the Gulist incident, they told him that it threatened his reputation as a debt collector. Then Maria joined them and suggested that they look for another planet to continue their business. Joe turned to Spider and asked him if the thing he wanted to see him about would make him a lot of money. Spider told him everything he knew about the Eden Zero and that he had been defeated by its owners. Joe was furious that his reputation had been tarnished by their humiliation of Spider, who came crying to him after his terrible defeat, and then ordered Anderson to get rid of him, so he shot him in a flash without giving him a chance to react and kept thinking about how he would benefit from the Eden Zero. On the other side, everyone was thinking about finding Valkyrie before heading to the mother. Homura told them that she didn't have any information about her current whereabouts, which is why she had previously gone to Blue Garden to find Ivory and gather information. Ivory said that she used to work for the Adventurers Guild and was assigned many jobs by Guild President Noah, and wondered why he was targeted targeted at the time of the Blue Garden kidnapping, even though he was mentioned, and it occurred to her that he may have been involved in the work of the Gollust underworld and helped carry out the kidnapping mission. Hermit suggested that they focus on finding Valkyrie for now and said that they might be able to find her with the help of Sakura's legendary space seer. When they asked her where he was, she told them that he was on Time Meridian, a planet where time is known to stand still. Meanwhile, Joe contacted President Noah to get information about Eden Zero. After that, Shiki and his companions went to the dressing room to change their clothes and try new things and ideas, and each of them got their favorite costume and then found that it was not long before they arrived on the planet Meridian. When they entered the planet, they found that everything is normal inside and there is no sign that time has stopped there. Then they found in front of them a building that looks like a Chinese palace, and when they read the instructions written on the gate, they took off their shoes so that they could enter. Then Pino warned them that she felt a huge etheric concentration after this point, so Shiki decided that they should finish quickly and return to the ship. When they entered the gate, they were surprised that the place was like a vast space without any landmarks. Then they met a girl named Xiaomi, who told them that she was the planet's time medium and that she knew all their names and why they had come. They wondered why time stood still even though the clouds and rivers were moving, and she told them that time in the outside world stood still for as long as they were on the planet, no matter how many years they stayed there, and although she is not a seer, she knows everything about the galaxy in detail, whether past, present, or future. When Homura asks her about Valkyrie, she tells her that they will find her soon and that she knows where she is, but she does not intend to tell them for free and expects proper compensation for the information she gives them. Then they are surprised that she sank them underground and they kept falling until they ended up in the Meridian battlefield amidst a huge number of spectators. Xiaomi appeared in front of them again and told them that she was bored with her omniscience and that she had put a limit on her abilities, which was that she couldn't know the outcome of the battles, and told them that one of them had to enter a duel with one of her fighters in exchange for answering all their questions if they won. Shiki gets excited and decides to take on the challenge. Xiaomei is also excited to watch an unpredictable fight and introduces his opponent from Zorg, the iron-skinned metal bogey. Shiki prepared to face him, and as soon as the fight started, everyone was shocked that he was able to win and defeat Metal Bogey in less than 5 seconds, and although Xiaomei was surprised, she began to see Shiki as an interesting boy. Xiaomei then told them that they had made it through the first round and had 3 more rounds to go, and they had to choose who would fight next, and Rebecca was chosen to fight against flanker Yaki, a featherweight boxing champion who looks like an awkward high school student. Rebecca is surprised that she will be facing Yaki, who is famous on the internet with his own channel and videos. She asks what he is doing here, and he tells her that he works part-time and can't wait for their fight to be posted on his channel. After the fight starts, they find that he has a gun in his boxing gloves and starts to attack Rebecca with a barrage of bullets, and when they exchange fire, she realizes that he can use an aether shield. He told her that he was going to film it and post it online to make fun of her, which reminded her of what Iliga did to her on the planet Gollust, so she got angry and lunged at him and hit him with a kick that rearranged his facial features. Xiaomi then announced the end of the match with Rebecca's victory, and it was time for the start of the 3rd round, where Weiss will face Ina, known as the passing comet from Sakura space. Once the fight started, Ina began to show off his strength, running as fast as he could against the wall, confident that no one could catch him. Weiss asks to be allowed to use Pino as a weapon, and then asks her to use her EMP in the range of the battlefield, causing Ina to be incapacitated and fall, and soon finds Weiss approaching him and giving him several kicks to prevent him from getting back up. Xiaomi announced the end of the match with Weiss's victory, and there was only one more round left, a round that Xiaomi had been waiting for despite the overwhelming feeling of pleasure of seeing the abilities and skills of Shiki and his companions. Then she announced the start of the last round, and then it was Homura's turn to enter the fight, thinking that there was no way she would be defeated. Then she was shocked when she saw her opponent enter the arena and approach her face to face, and it became clear that she would have to face her teacher that she had been looking for all this time, Valkyrie, and then Xiaomi told her that she is the spitting image of her, and she deliberately made her opponent when it was her turn. Valkyrie then told her that she had all the original information about her replica and knew who she was, but this made Homura furious, and she summoned her sword with the intention of destroying the fake version of her lab, considering it an insult to her to make a replica of her. Valkyrie told Homura that she knew everything about her fighting style and sword abilities, but Homura didn't listen and kept trying to hit her, while Valkyrie focused on the information from the original about her fighting style and weaknesses and waited for the right time to take her by surprise. She then approached her and told her that she knew that her feet were her only weakness and called her immature since their last meeting, but Homura continued to get up and continue fighting while Valkyrie continued to hit her and hit her hard. Homura felt that she was in trouble because the replica resembled her real teacher in almost everything, and then she remembered their first meeting when she was a child after her village was destroyed and she was the only survivor. The crooks thought of taking her and selling her to the planet Gollust to make money, but Valkyrie eliminated them and rescued her, and Homura refused to speak out of fear, so Valkyrie advised her not to be afraid to speak her mind because words will give her strength. Homura gathered her strength and continued to attack the replica, vowing to find the real Valkyrie, but the replica told her that she could not defeat her, and when she targeted her foot again, she was surprised that it was a trap by Homura. She deliberately stood in that position and then directed her knockout blow at her and managed to overcome her and turn her attack on her. Xiaomei then announced Homura's victory in the final round. Xiaomei told them that she had lied about the Valkyrie replica and that it was just a training robot, and then she dived them underground again until they were back in that vast place. Then she told them that she would pass on her knowledge to them and tell them everything she knew about Valkyrie as promised. She said that Valkyrie was on a distant planet known as the Jewel Planet Sanjol. When they were about to leave, she said she wanted to tell them something about the mother's mission. Then she told them that she gained her astral power through the mother, but in return she lost all her memories of the mother's whereabouts, but she still remembers that she met her before, and there is no wish that the mother cannot fulfill, which is why people are always after her, and she asked them not to let her fall into the wrong hands. Shiki promises her that they will find the mother and no one can stop them, and they leave the planet on their way to Sanjol to find Valkyrie, and they return to the ship, which tells them that it will take them 3 days to reach the planet Sanjol because they have to avoid the debris field and go around it. Then they are surprised by a large number of fish hovering in space around them. Avery notices that there is something shiny among the fish, and when they look closer, they realize that there is someone hovering in space next to them, and Shiki notices that he is trying to say something to them, and when they open the ship's communication channels, they find him asking for help. He tells them that his name is Commander Connor, and he's the captain of a ship, and due to an accident, the ship disappeared and he doesn't know where it is, and all that's left is the command deck, and then he ends up drifting into another world in space. When they asked him where he was from, he told them that he was from Aqua Space and asked to speak to the captain of the ship, and was surprised to learn that Shiki is the captain and the crew are women and robots, so he offered to take command of this ship, but they refused. Shiki decides to take him with them until he finds a place to stay. Ivory is furious that they took the old man with them, as she doesn't like untrustworthy people on the ship, so Witch says she'll keep an eye on him. Over time, Connor began to meddle in everything and interfere in the smallest details, which made them feel bored and angry with him. While Shiki saw that he was not a bad person, then they were surprised that he entered the cockpit and tried to drive the ship, and that's when they had enough. He told them that he knew where they were going and offered to take them there in 1 day instead of 3. When they asked him how he was able to do that, he told them that the ship had superhuman abilities and only needed a great captain like him to make it even better. Hermit suspects that he made it to the planet just by accelerating. He tells her that he took a shortcut through the debris field, and when he goes to take a short break, Witch begins to doubt Connor's identity, while Connor refuses to believe that his meeting with the crew of the Eden Zero was just a coincidence, as he is the captain of the Eden's One. A few minutes later, they landed on the planet Sanjol. It was a very luxurious planet, where all the buildings were gold-plated and all the inhabitants were dressed in elegant clothes, and they all remained fascinated by what they saw around them, while Homura's only thought was to find her mentor. They head to a huge VIP casino to gather information from the people inside, then decide to split up to search faster. Homura yells out loud to ask everyone if they know where Valkyrie is, but they can't find her. Pino warns her that they shouldn't draw attention to themselves because they don't know what Valkyrie might have gotten herself into on the planet. On the other side, an armed gang storms the casino in front of Shiki, and they all fall to the ground except for him. He decided to use his strength to confront them and rush towards them and began to take them down one by one in cooperation with Homura, and after they saved everyone from armed robbery, they were surprised by a bright light suddenly penetrating the place in the area where the criminals fell, and then everyone present began to cheer the appearance of the Scarlet Woman who punished the criminals and erased them from existence for their actions. Shiki and his companions marveled at what had just happened and that the inhabitants of the planet were celebrating the elimination of the criminals and describing the planet as the most peaceful planet where there is no place for villains here, and felt that something is wrong with this planet, while a robot in the form of a bird was watching what was happening. Meanwhile, Drac and Joe was sitting with the Scarlet Woman known as Kiranai, who protects the planet's inhabitants from evil forces by eliminating criminals with the satellite blade, and Joe asked her to find Eden Zero with the satellite blade. The robot bird then heads out of the casino and stands on the shoulder of a mysterious person who shows him Homura's photo, who turns out to be working for Valkyrie, and asks her what they should do after Homura arrives here. On the other side, 2 of the Crimson Woman's army soldiers go to the casino and tell everyone that they are safe and their role is to exterminate and punish the criminals, but Shiki and the rest are surprised by their intention to prosecute them for collusion with criminals and violence of any kind. Shiki and Homura try to escape, but find that the light follows them wherever they go until the spotlight area explodes and they both disappear in a flash, and the others think they are dead. When the soldiers find their comrades' faces filled with fear, they tell them that they have not been executed, but have been sent to the work area as criminals and must extract 100,000 pieces of ore to be able to return to this area again. Shiki and Homura find themselves in a dark cave and notice that they have collars around their necks with numbers on them, and are surprised by the appearance of a huge number of of insects in front of them, which is unfortunately Shiki's only weakness. Homura had to deal with them alone and continued to eliminate them one by one until a group of people appeared with weapons and exterminated the bugs with all their strength until they got rid of them completely, while Shiki remained frozen in place out of fear. Afterward, the people recognized them and Homura told them what had happened to them and that they had been sent to this area. The old man named Eagle told her that they are the weakest type of stone monsters because they have the least amount of metal. Then he began to explain to her the nature of the work here, that they are all hunters who kill stone monsters and extract the metal from them and send them directly to Kurenai, and the numbers on the collars are the amount of metal that they must extract in order to get out of this area. Shiki is shocked when he realizes that he has to fight all kinds of insects to survive in this suspicious place. Then they find a burly man beating up a worker for failing to extract his quota of metal. Homura thinks that violence is forbidden in this area too, but the masked band tells her that the work area has no rules and that this person is called Garrett, a jailer who works directly under Kurenai. Shiki approached him to stop him from continuing to beat the poor worker. They warned him not to try to stand up to those who work for the Scarlet Woman, and then a group of army soldiers landed in the area and surrounded Eagle and his comrades. Garrett realized that Shiki and Homura are new workers in the area and do not know the rules, so he took his whip and targeted their feet to force them to kneel before him against their will. Then he approached Homura and began to whip her mercilessly until her clothes were torn and her body was completely numb. Shiki rushed towards her to take the beating for her, but Garrett stopped and ordered him to move away from him because men don't interest him as much as he likes to see girls in pain. Then he tied Homura's hands and dragged her away. She asked Shiki not to cause any trouble and she would be able to manage it. Shiki felt angry that he could not defend her and prevented him from taking her and vowed not to leave this place until he saved her. Meanwhile, Kurenai was interviewing a man named Cedric from the planet Genos. It turns out that she had specially summoned him from that planet because it is famous for having all the handsome males. After he did, he told her he would do anything to be her mate, but she rejected him because he touched her face without permission. Then she burned his face with her power, then ordered her servant to enter next, and when he told her he was the last, she told him to look for more servants next time. Then she asked him if he knew anything about the Eden Zero ship, and he told her that he had never heard of it before even though he had traveled to several planets before. She told him that this ship is equipped with an Aether drive, and Draken Joe is after it, and ordered him to find it, intending to deceive Joe and take over the ship completely. On the other side of the ship, which sends strong signals coming from the planet, Ivory was unable to communicate with Rebecca in any way, and Rebecca was also trying to use her phone, but to no avail. She was surprised to see her archenemy, the bully Labilia, standing behind her, telling her that she saw everything that happened and that she knew a way for them to get to the work area her companions had moved to, and offering to do her a favor in exchange for telling her. Rebecca had a bad feeling about the request, but asked her to appear on her channel to capitalize on her recent fame in Blue Garden for rescuing the kidnapped girls and help gain more views for her channel. She then showed her a picture of a little girl who looks like a little girl nicknamed Ruby and asked her to play her role in the video. When Rebecca refused, she used blackmail and threats of what would happen to her coworkers and found that she had no choice but to comply. After that, she put on Ruby's costumes, which seemed inappropriate for her age or body size, and then she was surprised by a strange person singing Ruby's song, and he looks like a sane adult human being, but his behavior is suspicious compared to his male form. Rebecca then realized that it was Nino, a celebrity on social media with his coverage of anime news on his channel. If anyone knows him, write us in the comments to see how popular he is. Then he approached her and expressed his admiration for Ruby, but Labilia asked him to leave because she was about to shoot a video. Rebecca then gave Rebecca a script and told her that the events of the video would be agreed upon, which surprised Rebecca that they shoot their videos based on preparing a script beforehand, as she doesn't do that, which is why her views and followers are decreasing. Rebecca saw this as an opportunity for her to learn how to create content professionally and decided to take advantage of it to learn more and gain experience for her channel. During the video shoot, Labilia asked her to go on stage and say Ruby's famous line. When she did so, she was surprised by a sticky green liquid that poured on her on the stage and ruined her appearance and clothes in front of everyone. And it turned out that Labilia was planning to embarrass her in front of the audience from the beginning and burst out laughing when her plan succeeded and kept laughing at her in front of everyone, who were laughing at her, not caring about anything else. Happy and Pino got angry at her behavior and asked her to stop making fun of their friend, and Rebecca joined them, blaming herself for trusting Labilia in the first place. And when she asked her to tell her how to get to the work area as she promised, she ran away after she got what she wanted from her. Frustrated, she has no choice but to start gathering information again inside the casino. Nino approaches her and gives her a handkerchief to clean herself with a note inside telling her that Mrs. Kurenai hears every conversation inside the casino and wants to tell her that he knows how to get to the work area and asks her to follow him. Meanwhile, Homura is tied up in a warehouse and wonders why she can't use her special power. Garrett tells her that she can't use her power as long as her hands are tied and pulls out his whip to start having fun torturing her. But soon Shiki breaks into the warehouse and tells him that he is fighting for his friends and warns him that if he hurts her, he will make him see with his own eyes why they call him the Demon King. Garrett, angered by Shiki's boldness, attacks him. Shiki tries to dodge his blows, but the whip moves according to his movements and chases him wherever he goes, so he keeps dodging the whip until he gets close enough to Garrett to deliver the fatal blow, grabbing him and throwing him with all his might against the ceiling of the warehouse. With Garrett's head stuck up there and unable to move, Shiki turned to Homura to free him. She told him that she didn't know about not being able to use Aether while handcuffed, so Shiki was curious to try it out and asked her to tie him up. Homura tells him that she suspects that Garrett has information about Valkyrie's whereabouts, and Garrett tells him that he knows her very well. Rebecca and the others were on their way to the work area when they asked Nino how he knew how to get there, and he told them that he actually works for Kurenai, and he learned that she had recently been searching for the Eden Zero ship, so she used all her listening devices to detect anyone who knew any information about the ship. Rebecca remembered that she had mentioned the name of the ship out loud when she failed to contact her at the casino, so she asked him why she was after the ship, and he told her that he was assigned to contact the person who mentioned the name of the ship, which means contacting her, and he almost arrested her if not for her outstanding performance as Ruby, which he admired, and told her that he believes the anime will save the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that we can save the world together, which is why he decided to help her. When they reached the gate behind which the work area was located, he warned them that it was a dangerous area and advised them to escape off the planet after finding their friends. After the gate was opened, Rebecca and her companions headed inside the work area and noticed a bird staring at them from afar. Then she felt that the bird was trying to ask her to follow it, but Happy felt that it might be a trap, but she decided to follow it in the hope of finding something, and she kept walking behind it until she was surprised by a strange person standing on his head in a yoga pose. Then he asked them not to say a word because he was relaxing now. When Rebecca wanted to do the correct pose, he rushed towards her, spinning around until she realized that he had stolen her camera without her realizing it, and told her that this was his Aether power. He tells them that he knows about their search for Valkyrie. He tells them that his name is Paul and that he is a student of hers. They find out that he knows Homura and tells him that she told him about her and that he is basically reluctant to give her the thing that contains the truth about why Valkyrie left her behind, and that she basically decided to come to this planet and never come back. Garrett, on the other hand, said that Valkyrie's fame is widespread, but he refused to tell them where she is and told them that the collars on their necks are not just for harvesting minerals, but that they are prisoners as long as they have them around their necks, and as a jailer he won't give them what they want so easily. Then he decided to send them to the den of the fiercest stone monsters, and when they were surprised by the appearance of the bright red light again, he told them that he had access to some of Kurenai's powers. When they left, he sat there thinking that he should have killed Shiki himself, and felt angry that he had so much power. Baku joins him and tells him that he shouldn't have wasted the prisoners like that because after all, they belong to the Crimson Woman, and then tells him that they have to attend her meeting right away and that she seems to be in a bad mood. Shiki and Homura then traveled to a dark cave again when they heard the sound of footsteps close and strong, indicating the size of its owner, and he was terrified at the thought that the footsteps belonged to an insect when a suspicious entity with the body of a dragon and the head of a glowing flower appeared in front of them. Shiki decided to confront it, thinking that they might be able to break free of the collars if they could defeat it somehow. Then they used their powers and rushed towards the monster, but Homura was surprised when her sword broke due to its solid body, while Shiki's hand almost broke after he tried to throw a punch at it. Then the monster blew a huge amount of fire towards them and almost hit them. Then a bunch of flying insects came out of its body, which made Shiki's body stiffen with fear, so Homura tried to convince him that they were not insects, but only birds, but he collapsed immediately. Homura felt that she was in trouble and could not fight them alone, but Rebecca and her companions appeared just in time and eliminated the insects, and Homura was surprised to see Paul with her. Then Paul told them that they must escape from here as soon as possible as they have no chance against this monster, as it is known as the Black Stone, the leader of the stone monsters, and no hunter has been able to eliminate it since its appearance. But Homura insisted on staying and defeating the monster with her broken sword to break free from the collar. Pina was able to analyze the monster's abilities and identity and told them that she had discovered a weak spot in the monster's body, the area of least resistance. Homura thought of using Rebecca to reach this area of its body and asked her to jump on her broken sword as its power would send her into the air. When she did so, she realized that she would not be able to reach the height of the monster's back, and to her surprise, Shiki regained consciousness and rushed towards her to give her a boost. When she reached the target area, she used her power to focus the attack on his weak spot. Then Shiki used his power to pick him up and throw him away with all his might. Then Homura finished him off with her knockout blow, and the three of them defeated the monster in front of Paul's eyes. They thought they were free of the collars when they reached 0, but to their surprise, they were back to 100,000. Paul told them that they would never be free under Kurenai's grip, as the prisoners in the work area are kept down all their lives, and the only solution is to steal the collars. He then steals their collars without them realizing it and tells Homura that he knew she was coming to find her teacher, and gives her the cube containing the truth about Valkyrie. On the other side, Kirane's followers attend her meeting, and she tells them that she feels angry that Valkyrie's supporters are planning an uprising, so she decides to use her power to burn down the entire work area after finding another source of profit for her. Homura remembered 10 years ago when she was living with Valkyrie on the planet Odo and training under her supervision, and they spent all their time together by training and eating. Then Valkyrie noticed that she always carries a small doll in her arms, so she told her that it is a gift from her mother and she will keep it until she finds her. Valkyrie asked Homura if her mother was still alive, thinking that she died in the war, but Homura said that her mother left the planet before the outbreak of the war and went to earn money somewhere. Then their conversation was interrupted by people criticizing and ridiculing Valkyrie, and that she is a robot trying to play the role of a mother with Homura. Homura stood up in front of them and told them that she was her strong and kind teacher. So Valkyrie took her and they ran away from people, and 5 years later, Homura was still suffering from persecution and bullying against her and her teacher until she ended up fighting with the son of an official who later sentenced her to apologize to his son in exchange for a pardon. Homura felt humiliated and angry that she was forced to apologize to the person who offended her, so she refused to apologize to him and told him that he was the one who should apologize for insulting her teacher. He said that he was the one who was beaten and injured, so she told him that it was just a fight and was defeated. Then he went crying to his father like scum to help him turn things in his favor, and they started fighting again in front of everyone, and attempts at reconciliation failed. Valkyrie's father spoke to Valkyrie privately and advised her to discipline her child or stop pretending to be her mother. She said that she had no intention of pretending to be her mother. He told her that people love their children even if they can't raise them as they wish because they are part of them, but she can't do that because she's not her daughter. On their way home, Homura felt aggrieved that everyone was forcing her to apologize to the person who offended her and her teacher, and Valkyrie couldn't find the right words to comfort her, and she felt that the spoiled kid's father was right in his words that she couldn't take her mother's place. She decides to go in search of Homura's real mother and heads to the planet San Joel and doesn't return until she reaches her. She asks Xiaomi to tell her where she is, and she finds her with her special ability and tells her that Homura's real mother is Kirane, the Scarlet Woman. 5 years before Kirane was in her position on the planet, Valkyrie found her as a lowly prisoner in the work area, unable to move and owed a huge amount of metal to get out of this place. She offered to help her get off the planet and back to her daughter. Using Paul's unique skill as a thief, Kirane asked him why he hadn't removed his collar and freed himself from this prison. He told her that he deliberately stayed here in order to obtain rare metals not sent to the Baron, a mass of extremely dense aether that he sells at a very high price. When Valkyrie told her that she had to go back to her daughter and live with her, she said she couldn't go back now because she had left the planet in search of riches and money and ended up in debt at casinos and was thrown into the work zone to pay her debts, and feared that if she failed to pay them, the authorities would come after her daughter. Valkyrie decides to sacrifice for them and orders Paul to put her collar around her neck and tells her that she'll pay her debts for her. She specializes in fighting and will be able to handle herself here. 2 years later, Valkyrie got used to life in the work zone with her apprentice Paul and was surprised when he told her that the woman she had sacrificed to give her the freedom to return to her daughter had become the Baron's legal wife, had assassinated him, and had taken over the entire planet for herself. Valkyrie is both angry and shocked at her sudden personality change and wonders what she went through after leaving the work area. She decides to leave the work area to find Kirane and orders Paul to take off her collar. However, they were soon surprised by a swarm of different types of stone monsters coming out of the caves and attacking the prisoners. Eagle told her that Kirane had forced them to harvest more minerals and deliberately brought the monsters out of her caves to force them to fight. Valkyrie gets angry at Kirane and decides to take charge since she was the one who freed her, so she orders everyone to head towards the residential area while she takes over here. Then she attacks the monsters at once using her super strength and manages to take down a huge number of them, while Kirane is extremely rich as minerals and jewels rain down on her like rain thanks to Valkyrie's power. In the end, Valkyrie's strength faded as the number of monsters around her grew until she was surrounded, but she decided not to give up and continued to fight the monsters for a whole day until she was sure that there were no monsters around, and before she stopped working, she remembered when Homura expressed her love for her. When Homura arrived at Valkyrie's resting place, she found her in a pitiful state after her last fight before dying to protect the prisoners of the work area, and couldn't believe that after all she had gone through to find her, she was dead. Homura kept begging her to wake up and come back to life. She thought about taking her to Waze or asking Pino to fix her, but Pino told her that when a robot's heart stops working, it has the same result as when a human's heart stops working, and there's nothing they can do for her. After that, everyone sat in frustration after realizing that they had failed to bring the four sisters together and would not be able to do it after Valkyrie's death. Then Eagle and his companions joined them and told them that they carried on her legacy with the highest respect, and everyone called themselves the Valkyrie Army, and that they were now planning to turn against the Scarlet Woman and intended to use the power of her student. Rebecca thought about it and thought it would be best to leave Homura alone to grieve as much as she wanted. On the other hand, Shiki approached her and expressed his admiration for Valkyrie's strength and courage to fight to protect humans. Homura felt that she would never be able to recover from her departure and would grieve for the rest of her life. He told her that he was deeply hurt when his grandfather died, but he had many friends around him who helped to comfort him, and so did she, and he encouraged her and comforted her while he was furious inside and planned to take revenge on Kurenai, who caused her death. She told her followers that she was doing this to avenge her opponents who worship Valkyrie, who is a piece of junk, as if she were a saint. She denied helping her in the past and told them that she rose to the top by her own efforts, and mocked the idea that she wanted her to return to her daughter when she deliberately abandoned her to get super rich when she went to the planet Sanjol. As she was laughing and feeling triumphant, she was surprised when Shiki broke into the lab and was shocked when he told her that he would take her by force to see her daughter and that she would decide what to do with her. She sarcastically told him that she was not interested in meeting her daughter, and he decided to use force to force her to go with him. Kurenai ordered her followers to continue preparing the force to annihilate the work area until she finished with Shiki. She summoned a number of her soldiers to surround him and ordered them to burn him, so they rushed towards him at the same time, at which point he used his power to control gravity and force them to get close enough to him so that he could deliver a fatal blow to them all at once. He then headed towards Kurenai to finish her off with his attack, but was surprised when Baku rushed towards her to protect her and kicked him away. Shiki blocked him and pushed him towards Gero, then headed towards Kurenai again and tried to hit her, but she easily blocked him. Meanwhile, everyone was surprised that he went to fight her alone, and Eagle and his companions thought that he had no chance against them because he loses consciousness at the sight of insects. But Paul told them that he could sense his energy and realized that it was now abnormally high. Then they all decided to prepare to go and help him against Kurenai. Rebecca goes to where Homura is and tells her that Shiki went to fight her mother alone. When she finds her motionless and speechless, she remembers that she was always expressing herself and thinking out loud, so she tells her to do what she used to do and tell Valkyrie what she came for. On the other hand, Kurenai was shocked when the servant told her that someone had hacked into her eye system and taken complete control of it. It turned out that Draken Joe had done it to get rid of her. His followers thought that he would use the eye cannon to find the ship, but he told them that he already knew where the ship was and intended to take it by direct combat. At that time, Kurenai took Joe's betrayal as a declaration of war on her and ordered that her dragon be activated now, even though it wasn't finished yet. Shiki was surprised when a giant robot appeared in front of him, and Kurenai teleported herself into it, deciding to get rid of Shiki first before focusing on Joe. She then punched him and sent him flying out of the building and followed him and started attacking everyone around her, causing chaos in the city. Shiki tried to harm him, but he realized that his fists wouldn't work with this type of robot. On the other hand, Valkyrie's army prepared to confront her soldiers in the work area, and Rebecca decided to confront them in order to protect Homura and Valkyrie. And when the clash began, she realized that the soldiers' resistance to aether attacks was weak and could be easily destroyed. Then they were surprised when Baku landed on the battlefield and told them that their rebellion had angered Kurenai and that he had come to punish them. Then he began to attack anyone who got in his way, and when he got close enough to Rebecca, Whis appeared out of nowhere after creating an iron suit and calling himself Arsenal to counter his attack and protect Rebecca. On the other side, Shiki was struggling against Kurenai and her giant robot, trying to find an opening to take him down and force her out, while Kurenai went crazy and kept firing bullets at him, causing damage to the city's facilities and increasing the pressure on him. In the work area, everyone was waiting to see what would happen between Baku and Whis, nicknamed Arsenal. Baku said that he had orders from his master to inflict heavenly punishment on the rebels, and Whis told him that he too had orders to bring all his comrades back safely. Rebecca and the others were impressed by the capabilities of his new suit, but due to Baku's repeated attacks, his suit's aether rate decreased, and he was surprised to find that the suit would gradually shut itself down in 10 seconds. Then Whis decided to take advantage of the 10 seconds left in front of him to use his trump card and use the full power of the suit to launch a final attack on Baku and managed to hit him with a knockout blow and get him, and then the suit stopped working immediately. And when Rebecca approached him to confirm his identity, she was shocked that he was standing in front of her completely naked after the suit disappeared completely. Shiki is still struggling against Kurenai, who tests his tolerance for the weight of her giant robot by trying to crush him with his fist underground while he resists the force of his fist and is unable to reduce his weight with his gravitational force. She tells him that her dragon is coated with aether from which it draws its power. Shiki decides to use his power on the ground instead of the robot, and they all fall after he destroys the surface of the ground and discovers that the work area is located below, and Kurenai is furious that she has to go down to this filthy place again, and it brings back memories she doesn't want to remember. Shiki then thought of controlling his body's gravity and weight and making himself heavier so that he could match the robot's strength and knock it down, then swore to her that he would take her to her daughter and that he was close to fulfilling his mission. She asked sarcastically if he expected to see a touching reunion or expect Homura to take her anger out on her, and he told her that he did not care about whatever happens when they meet, but he had inherited Valkyrie's will and determination. She continued to attack him, criticizing his pathetic ideas about robots and comparing them to humans, and was shocked to discover that he had sacrificed his own hand to cause damage by painting the robot's aether with his powerless fist. Meanwhile, Rebecca tells Whis, who starts to think about how they'll get to outer space without the four sisters and how they'll pave the way for the rest of them with her death. All the way through the Valkyrie queue, Rebecca told him that they should focus on their current situation, and when Happy ran out of aether, she decided to use the weapons in the warehouse. Then Whis was surprised that he could not open the door to the room, and Rebecca realized that someone had blocked all the entrances and exits to the warehouse to lock them inside, and she was surprised that this person was Nino. Nino told her that he was doing his job, as he was assigned to close the armory and prevent the rebels from supplying weapons and ammunition. He offered Rebecca to stay calm until the troops control the rebels, and he will let her go in peace, but she refused and wondered how he could hurt innocent people. He told her that everyone in the work area are criminals and Kurenai is the one who made the rules here, and no one can stand in front of her. When he found her insisting on going out and helping the rebels, he had no choice but to use force and showed his invisible power and prepared to face her. She told him she didn't want to fight him. He told her that she had to fight if she wanted to save the universe and that it would only take one blow for him. Then he started attacking her, and she realized that she would die if she took one blow from him. When she tries to shoot him, he tells her that guns won't work against his super arms, and she has a sudden realization that she has been in this situation before, where she was face to face with a famous person and her weapons didn't work against him, and her defense loosened and Nino was able to deliver a powerful blow to her face. Then she remembered that it was Yaki on the Meridian battlefield and remembered all the fights and how they had defeated their enemies. On the other side, Shiki took off his robe and vowed to Kurenai that he would pull her out of the robot and take her to Homura. Kurenai thought that he intended to destroy the robot with his fists and laughed at his naivety. Rebecca realized that Shinomi knew that Homura and Valkyrie would never meet again and allowed them to meet for the last time in Meridian Square, and that she had predicted the battle they would fight here and had hinted at it through the battles they had fought on her planet. Then she suddenly felt the ether in her body rush to her feet, and time flashed back several minutes, and when Nino swung at her, she jumped back before he touched her, then lunged at him and, remembering his favorite anime character Ruby, delivered a deadly kick to his jaw as his defense slackened in realization. After defeating him, she reopened the doors and the armory again and brought Whis out of the dressing room. When he asked her about the aether power he had sensed, he was surprised by her tremendous speed after she finally got her aether power and could also jump great distances. After that, the Valkyrie army got the weapons they needed to fight the Kurenai army's attacks, and while the war was raging between them, Homura was still sitting in front of Valkyrie's body as if she was dead until she noticed the sound of explosions near her. She remembered her comrade's words to her that she should move on and overcome this stage of grief, but she was surprised to find that her body was completely paralyzed and unable to get up, and found Garrett approaching her and telling her that her body was filled with paralyzing drugs due to being beaten with his whip. He leaned over Valkyrie's body and asked her what kind of agreement they had made together. He kept provoking her by talking about Valkyrie and told her that he should have gotten rid of her body but wanted to show her some respect. He then cut Valkyrie's neck with his whip in front of Homura, making her furious and wanting to spill his blood. Garrett thought she couldn't do anything to him, but he was surprised when she used her special power and pointed a large number of swords at him, so he dodged her attacks and tied her hands to prevent her from using the aether. Then he felt victorious and arrogant because he had destroyed Kurenai's daughter psychologically and physically. Then he realized that the sword that Valkyrie was holding in her hand had disappeared, and it turned out that she had intended to take the sword out of her hand from the beginning by attacking her, and before he realized it, the blade of Valkyrie's sword pierced his body and he died. Rebecca and Whis, who was surprised to see Valkyrie's corpse and surprised that she was able to defeat Garrett in her condition, said that thanks to her teacher and their encouragement, she was able to get up and fight back. Meanwhile, Kurenai is furious with Shiki's super strength, and when she finds Draken Joe's ship damaging her eye cannon, she decides to punish him for messing with her property after she finishes with Shiki quickly. She then turned on the robot's full power to attack him, but he noticed that she was not targeting him. It turns out that she was saving time to be able to aim her actual attack at him, and was surprised when she fired a missile at high speed at close range towards him. Shiki felt that he was in trouble when he found himself in a chase with several guided missiles aimed at him. He thought about directing them towards the wall and dodging them at the last moment, but to no avail as the missiles came out of the roof of the building and headed towards him. When he did so, I told him that the robot was not taking damage from his weapons, but I was shocked shocked to find that he used the rocket's momentum to increase its gravity and break the robot. Within seconds, the robot was reduced to rubble and Kirine found herself sitting out in the open, not realizing that the robot had been destroyed by a human. Meanwhile, the Valkyrie army noticed that its soldiers had suddenly stopped fighting, and it turned out that Nino had gotten rid of Kirine's server and deactivated the soldiers himself. The workers began to celebrate their victory over Kirine's army, while Homer apologized to her comrades for causing so much damage, and that if she had participated in the battle earlier, it would have ended with fewer losses. Then everyone was surprised by the arrival of Shiki, dragging Kirine behind him to fulfill Valkyrie's wish to meet her daughter. The workers felt anger and hatred towards her and kept insulting and beating her, but Shiki stopped them and suggested that they let Homer be the one to decide her fate. Homer stood in front of her and Kirine tried to beg her to untie her, so Homer took out her doll, and after seeing that she didn't remember her, she told her that she was the only link between them, but now it was severed. Kirine thought she was going to die at the hands of her daughter, but she found that she had untied her while she was begging for her life and realized that she would forgive her for everything she had done to her. But Homer told her that she didn't care about her anyway, but she was grateful for bringing her into this world. Then she added that Valkyrie thought she needed a mother in the past, which is why she left to look for her, but what she needed was someone to love her, and since she doesn't have any feelings for her, she doesn't need her. Homer's words hit Kirine like a thunderbolt until she told her to leave the place as soon as possible and to be out of her life from now on, and she felt that Homer was ready to end her life at any moment. Kirine ran away and kept running until she reached the forest, thinking how naive her daughter was to let her go in peace. Suddenly, she received a crushing blow from a mysterious person who was hiding in the bushes waiting for her, and she was surprised to find a group of men surrounding her, including Cedric, whose face she had burned in the past. He orders his minions to take her away, and when she tries to resist, he strikes her again with his staff and tells her that she will be his pet from now on, and that he enjoys torturing her and his minions to avenge what she did to them. Homer gave her doll to Valkyrie and told her that she was more deserving than her mother, then said her last goodbye before she and her friends boarded the ship and left the planet. Avery wondered why they didn't bring Valkyrie's body with them, and Homer replied that she was a symbol of the people who live in this area. Avery was furious and told her that if they had brought her body, she would have been able to heal her, repair her damage, and rebuild her, but Witch told her that even if she succeeded, this robot wouldn't be the Valkyrie they knew because they couldn't rebuild her neurotransmitters, making her incapable of feeling anything. Ivory wasn't convinced and asked Shiki to convince her to return Valkyrie's body to the ship as the captain. He said that his grandfather told him in the past that machines are doomed to die just like humans, so machines realize the value of life and that's why they have a heart. Homer agrees and tells them that she's willing to become a Valkyrie if it will allow them to go into outer space and find their mother. Ivory tells her that they were released from their mission 15 years ago and are now all on the ship of their own free will, which then decides to take over as Valkyrie's successor, and everyone starts calling her Valkyrie as her heir, but she feels that this will cause her a lot of stress, so they start thinking of nicknames that are a combination of both of their names. Hermit told them that it was okay for Homura to stay as she was, so they started looking for a special costume for her to be her uniform. Meanwhile, Connor was watching them from afar. Meanwhile, Drac and Joe and his followers realized that they had been tricked into following a hologram of the ship all this time, but Joe decided to keep following them since he knew where they were going next. Avery then sat absent-mindedly staring at the stars and told Witch that she didn't know that losing a friend was so painful and wondered how she was holding herself together under such circumstances. But when she looked at her face and saw that she was crying silently, she cried too, and they continued to sob as they hugged each other. Shiki then looked up at the sky and spoke to his grandfather to tell him that he had made many wonderful friends and that he was trying to make 100 friends in space, and decided to continue their journey to find their mother and meet her to fulfill their wishes.